Hey folks, this is Joe. What you're about to watch is just a gussied up version of the live stream we did this past November. All I did was add some high-def game footage pulled from a real Famicom with the high-def NES mod, and some fancy graphics to bring it in line with our other draft videos. So if you listen in November, you're good. If not, well, here you go. The only other thing I'd like to mention here is that since this was originally done as a live stream, sometimes we comment on the gameplay Eric pre-recorded for that live stream. I tried to edit around it, but a lot of it feeds directly into conversation, so I did leave a bit. The gameplay here obviously doesn't match that, but if you want to see it, the archived live stream is linked in the description. Enjoy!
What will the future bring from Nintendo? More hits like Super Mario Brothers. Sports hits like Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. Nintendo has the most video game hits. Hogan's Alley, The Legend of Zelda, and more like Metroid, Rad Racer. And you can play them only on the Nintendo Entertainment System. Now you're playing with power.
Hi, I'm Eric Stephen Allen. I'm here with Joe Drilling.
Hey, what's up? I'm Joe Drilling, and I'm here with Mike Ailes.
Hi, I'm Mike Ailes, and I'm here with... What was the last guy's name?
Kurt Adam.
Kurt Adam.
Hi, I'm Kurt Adam, and I'm here with all the other people that are here.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So this is
There
on
might
the...
be other people here, but those are the only people that are going to say anything.
This is On the Stick, the podcast,
Whoa.
What?
for the first
We don't
time
do that
in
anymore.
like 10 months or
time.
whatever.
Way more than that.
No, we did a
Game of the
PS2
Year.
draft. Which
Yeah, Game of the Year I would
was,
technically consider an On the Stick podcast, even though there is
Okay,
no
all
podcast feed per se these days.
Right, okay, I'm down with that.
Anyway, we're going to redo the NES Draft because
So-
Joe was supposed to make
so
a
that Joe
video
can
out of it.
videoify it.
And yeah, it was a little rough, so we decided just to redo it.
Yeah, it would have been. I would have had to edit and chop and do a bunch of stuff to the point it would have been distracting.
Yeah.
Like to
Because Lord knows we are known for our smooth podcast.
And then 8 years from now, this will be so fucked up that we'll have to go back and do it all again.
we'll do it
In
again.
like
Well-
Hollow Vision.
I mean, will there even be YouTube in our coming hellscape?
Yes, that's
You
the only thing
definitely-
that will survive.
That's the only thing.
Most assuredly.
But it'll only be YouTube Red.
I mean, YouTube is like a harbinger of the fucking future hellscape, right?
You'll turn it off.
YouTube and dystopia will be synonymous. Anyway,
Dystopia.
They already are.
Yeah, something. Anyway, the algorithm is all...
It's all consuming.
everybody under the age of 20 will be a Nazi or a... Anyway, fuck.
More
I
so.
fucking hate
Anyways,
everything on the
yeah.
internet.
Why?
Never mind, podcast is
Why?
canceled.
No, Eric, the people need this.
Okay.
They need this
I need
positive
this.
look into...
Yeah, I was gonna say. I think you need
Positive
this,
look
but
into
you need to
that.
stop talking about that shit you were just talking about and just talk about video games for a while. So
Yeah, there you go.
Let's rewind it all the way back to 1983.
Can we rewind it like maybe a little bit further than that when the good games started coming out for the NES, and so we're not just stuck with like Clue Land and baseball. Like,
Oh, man, how dare you fucking
Wait,
disparage the fine name of Clue Land?
you better draft Clue Land now.
You're
You
shitting on
better.
Eric's choices. I don't think. Also, spoilers, right?
Yeah.
Hey, Eric, why don't you tell them how this works?
So I feel like the original NES draft that we did, we picked like conceptually this was supposed to be like a desert island list where we were all being
Yes,
separated, and then we would just each pick a video game in a snake draft format, and then what we got was the games that we got to take with us to the desert island. But it has sort of it has sort of transformed over the years to just being like a rundown of like all of our top, like a easy way to make a collective like top 25 list for the various consoles. And I
I
think
need to
that
know if we're sticking to the old rules or not, because that'll change my answers.
does it. It doesn't really change mine very much, but
Yeah, no, it doesn't change mine either. I mean,
either way, So what we're going to do is we're going to pick an order, which we probably should have done before the show, but we've always been... Oh, you did?
No, Mike did. Yeah,
He's already ready to go.
All right, good.
He just hasn't told
And
us.
then we'll see how badly Joe fucks up the first pick and hands me the two games that I want right off the top again.
Maybe I didn't have the first.
I got the first pick and everybody
last time.
No, you-
Let's start with that.
But you picked before me, because I had the last pick last time.
That's true. You did get, yeah, you got a twofer.
As the person with the list, the dramatic irony is delightful.
Hey,
So what-
hey, Mike, what's the order?
Well, I read so snake style draft. Just so you know,
Yep.
we do 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1. How many rounds are we doing before we call it quits?
We'll do a top 20, and then we'll do a lightning round for the last 5 to round it out. I believe that's how we have done it in the past.
That is how we have done it
Yes.
historically, yes.
Each chooser has 4 minutes to expound upon the virtues of their chosen game, and 30 seconds to choose what it's actually going to be. And after that,
Right.
the buzzer is a harsh mistress.
Yes. If you miss, it goes to the next person, but then it comes back to you after their pick. You don't miss your...
Yes, although that has never happened in the history of on-the-stick drafts.
Someone took a pass in the Sega, I think, in the Sega Genesis draft. Someone, I think Austin Walker was like, I can't decide, the next person can go.
Well, that ain't
Waypoint editor-in-chief Austin Walker, who was on one of our draft shows one time before he was Waypoint editor-in-chief, before he was Giant Bombs Austin Walker, when he was Stream Friends Austin Walker. That was,
Yeah, true. That's right.
Yeah, well, that was the Genesis, and we're talking about the Nintendo Entertainment System tonight.
That's right.
Are we ready to get things moving?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
we could probably... I need to know, like, what the order is and stuff, or...
All right, your first drafter for tonight is Mr. Eric Steven Allen.
Yay!
Nice.
Now I get to decide if I want to stab Joe in the back, or if I just was, like...
Are we just going to let Eric go and then we're going to find out as we go what the...
Yeah, I think we should find out as we go.
I'm fine with that. I just-
Eric's 30 seconds are ticking.
Yeah,
gonna tell
that's
you.
why I was asking, because I was going to start the timer. It has started.
Well, it's your only chance to stab him because Joe's gonna get 2 choices before your next pick, Eric.
Oh, all right. Well,
Everyone is
true.
going to get 2. Yeah, it's true. Everyone's going to get 2 choices for
fuck it, man. There is one. I mean, there's a lot of great NES games.
It's true.
And there's a couple that you might describe as perfect, but I think that this is the most perfectest NES game. I don't think you can lodge any criticisms against it. And that game is Contra. And so last time this was our 4th on the list. This time it'll be number 1, and I don't
Damn
think.
fine pick.
Yeah,
You are well and truly a son of a bitch.
yeah. I mean, look, man.
I was going to pick it if you didn't.
Yeah.
Because just to...
Just to be a dick to me? Is that...
Yeah, right, yeah. Pretty much.
It's funny how
Like, it's a great game, and we might as well pick it before Joe, just to vex him.
I love Contra. I will admit that I probably don't love Contra as much as Joe does, but I do think that it is one of the rare perfect video games that.
You don't judge games in how many Contras you can play.
Right? No, it's true.
Like, I could have played Contra 15
Oh, no, I
times.
forgot. Contra. It's a game with like no fat in it whatsoever. It's got a lot of variety in the level design. The level designs are all super tight. It's got a lot of super awesome power-ups. It's got a ton of great bosses. It's got co-op. It is a very difficult game, but it also has an easy mode where you can enter the classic Konami code and get 30 lives and kind of make it possible to just brute force your way through it. It is like a perfect 8-bit video game. It is everything that you could ever possibly want from an NES game, and I love it. I love playing it. Like I said, I have not mastered it in the same way that Joe has, during an Extra Life stream a few years ago, he looped it like 10 times in 90 minutes without having to start over, which was very impressive. I cannot do that. I can beat it.
I think it was like 5 or
having to
6,
continue,
but yeah.
Anyway, it's a really incredible game.
Yeah. Contra's
Agreed.
probably my favorite video game of all time.
Yep.
Like, just full stop. So I think it's a worthy number 1 overall pick for this endeavor.
Yeah.
Even if you're a son of a bitch for taking it.
Can you say anything bad about Contra?
No one can say anything. Anybody who would try to say anything bad about Contra.
Sometimes you get stuck with laser, and that sucks.
Sometimes you get stuck with a fire weapon.
Fire's better than laser. No, fire's way better than laser. No, fire's better than laser because it covers a wider area, so it's easier.
No, laser is better because it does way more DPS than.
You don't need to do a lot of damage if you can stand out of the line of fire.
So DPS wasn't invented until 2006. Okay?
Previous to that, it was.
Tell that to people who speedrun Contra. All right.
Do you think that killing your friends in the waterfall level is a bug or a feature?
It's a feature.
Yeah, it's definitely a...
No, it's a feature. It's meant to make it. It's meant to force you
to work together a little bit.
To work together or face the consequences of not working together. So. It's a feature.
Yeah. Also, like these, as you're seeing in this little video. Although I don't know if Joe's planning to edit some different footage together at some point, so maybe I shouldn't reference what's happening in the video. But I really like the behind-the-shoulder videos are very good, or the behind-the-shoulder levels are also really good. They're just a really awesome change of pace.
Yeah.
It's just so much good shit in Contra.
Yeah.
Played it all the time when I was a kid. And holds up to this day. I think it's still a great game. And it's just as good in 2018 as it was in 1988.
In college, my roommate and I would play. Many nights we would play, and when we got to the end, we would stand up and salute while the credits rolled.
Really good.
Defeated the vile Red Falcon. Consider yourself a hero.
All right, so that's Contra. Unless anybody else has anything to add.
I mean, I could talk all day about Contra, but it's the platonic ideal of an action platformer. You run and gun at such a smooth rate. You don't have to stop to shoot.
Oh man, the jump is so good.
Yeah,
it feels so good to jump, and you can squiggle your guy back and forth, and you have really good control over everything. It's such great.
Okay, done.
Yep.
All right, well, our next drafter person is going to be none other than me. That's Mike. If you're listening, hooray! So I didn't think I was going to get my first choice. Honestly, that almost never happens in these drafts. But thankfully, Eric could not resist the siren song of making Joe really sad.
That's what I live for.
That's true. But it's not one of those games I played as a kid, so it's not like the top on my list. I find out Super C. That was good too.
Super C is also good.
Anyway, that's not what I'm picking. I'm picking the one game for the NES that I come back to the most out of any, the one that I would want to play the most if I could only have one. And it's Mega Man 2.
God, you son of a bitch.
Were you ready for that?
I mean,
that we were expecting?
Yep.
I thought you liked Mega Man 3 more, Mike.
Well, there are things that I think are better about Mega Man 3, but Mega Man 2 is the iconic one. It's the one that is completely, carved into my brain. I could probably map that game out for you now and be more or less correct. I've played it dozens, if not over 100 times to completion. Picked every level first and learned how to do the quick lasers and the Heatman blocks, and it's the game that has the robot masters that you care about. It's the game that has the weapons that you care about. It's the game that has the music that you care about. So Eric, you just tabbed over.
Yeah, I did that accidentally.
There are absolutely things that I love about Mega Man 3, and that's an amazing game. But Mega Man 2 is the one everyone remembers and the one everyone wants, and so I'm taking it. Look at this intro.
Great.
Yeah, the intro is great. Mega Man 2 is definitely the better one. It's the best one. Who the hell goes to Airman first, though? What the hell is this?
Everybody who knows how to play Mega Man 2 goes to Airman first.
No, everybody knows how to play Mega Man 2 but goes to... No, Metal Man is the optimal choice because the Metal Blade is totally broken.
Yeah, but if you do Airman first, then you get the item 2, and then you can get the extra life and the E-Tank in Metal Man state.
Yes, sir.
You don't need them.
Nice to have.
Yeah. Okay, is that thing a mouth or a nose? That's the real question.
It's his nose. The mouth is the straight line of the bottom.
Correct.
I always thought it was a nose, and I didn't think that the line was a mouth. I thought it was just that dude only has a nose.
I always thought it was a mouth. And I can't unsee it.
Like an elephant.
Elephants have Never mind.
Got that big. Yeah. Anyway, the point is, Mega Man 2. I remember renting a Nintendo before I owned one, and like playing this game for just hours and hours and hours, and just throwing myself at all the levels and dying over and over again until I learned. Bubble Man used to always be my starter because it was the first one that I managed to crack.
Yeah. There's
no reason to start with Bubble Man.
When I was a kid, I used to start with Flash Man because he's a chump and the level's pretty easy, and then you can get Quick Man.
And it's got the best music.
Right, and Quick Man's level and Quick Man is pretty easy.
All right, Joe. Sure.
But
best music in the game is probably Air Man, but there's so many choices.
Yeah,
it's Flash Man.
Really
Woodman is maybe my favorite.
Yeah, that nice.
Woodman, that bass riff in
sort of
Woodman
like,
is pretty good.
Yeah, that world music beat.
Yeah,
fell off the cloud, you got killed by the lightning guy.
Yeah.
Let's just dunk on Eric's inability to be good at Mega Man 2 for the rest of this. Yeah, I don't know. I Mega Man 3, I think the Donic Robot stages kind of feel like padding to me, which is what really keeps 3 from being better than 2.
Mega Man 2 has the dragon, which was one of the most mind-blowing things I'd ever seen in a video game.
The dragon is still kind of mind-blowing, to be honest.
Yeah, it doesn't. It's less mind-blowing when you really pay attention to how little animation it has. It's quite a bit less mind-blowing.
It has tiny wings like a hummingbird, though. That's one of my favorite things about it.
The 2018 Game Critic me sees that there are a couple of glaring flaws with Mega Man 2 that I would not put up with if I hadn't learned how to play it so long ago.
What do you mean?
At this point, it doesn't matter.
I feel like the most glaring flaw is that the Metal Blade is ridiculously overpowered.
That's not a flaw.
I mean, I appreciate it, but I think you could make an argument that this one thing kind of unbalances the whole damn game.
No, I'm thinking stuff like the Quick Man lasers and the Heat Man blocks that are just a completely ridiculous ask for a new player.
So the Heat Man, I've never done the Heat Man blocks, but I can do the Quick Man lasers. But there's a way around both of those things, right?
There is.
You can item 2 around the Heat Man blocks, and you can time stopper past the Quick Man lasers.
Yeah,
but a new player's not going to know that.
Yeah, I mean, I think
that's part of the thing about Mega Man games, is you trial and error your way through them, figuring out which boss to go to and which stage.
I mean, the levels are very short, so if it didn't have at least a little bit of a challenge, then you would be able to breeze through it super quickly. I actually think that they do a pretty good job of teaching you about the lasers and the way that the blocks work. In the level earlier, before they make you really do the hard shit, so you can at least practice before you have to do the hard stuff. But and also, I mean, the blocks are in Mega Man 1, so
yeah, it's just that you can't see.
But they're not in the same way as Heat Man.
Anyway, it's amazing. It's best game ever.
It's a great game.
The best game on the Nintendo.
Yep.
Definitely one of the best soundtracks of all time. Also,
yes,
love that minor 7.
Yeah. All right, who's up next?
All right, I'm supposed to tell you that. All right, our third drafter will be none other than the illustrious Kurtafin Adam.
Woohoo! Yay! I'm gonna go with that. I'm pretty sure that I picked first, and I picked this game previously. Super Mario Brothers 3.
Hey,
The greatest platformer of all time.
I could buy that argument.
Maybe second, maybe third.
It's very good.
I know what you might put ahead of it as another Mario, but what would be the...
Oh, I don't know. Let's not get
Okay.
Not get into that distraction.
So I would say that this was the... I'm a big fan of platformers, and this was the first one I played that just sort of blew my mind as to how much stuff was in it.
There's a lot of stuff,
and all the little secrets and all the little one-shot things like Kariba's shoe.
Mm-hmm.
For the time that it came out, it was on another plane of existence.
Yeah, exactly. You're just like, where did this game come from?
Yeah.
It's so far advanced compared to everything else that was around at the time.
Yeah,
It's stuffed with stuff, things, and suddenly you find out about a whistle, and you can skip levels, and you can, go back and forth and do all this stuff, and there's mini games,
And the pirate ship appears with all the coins, and you're like, why'd that happen?
yeah, exactly.
I don't know, because it's fucking cool, man.
It's cool, and when you get really fucking good at it, it just feels great. The controls are amazingly tight. Everything just works. Looks great. The
the variety in the level designs and backgrounds is really impressive. Like
exactly, they do so much with such
levels.
a limited palette. Yeah, exactly.
It is just an endless series of snacks.
Yep.
I love the overworld. I've talked about this before, but I love the overworld stuff you can get up to. How it turns into a board game if you've got 2 players, and like you can leapfrog each other or get sent back if you lose all your lives, and like the opening and closing bridges on World 3 using anchors to
that's like
airship.
There's almost no reason for that to need to be there, and yet it's there and it's cool.
But it's just so fun.
Yeah. Exactly.
Also, discovering all the various suits and power-ups and stuff was super cool.
You got your Tanuki suits,
frog suits, Hammer Brothers suits.
Hammer
Brothers. Like such an event anytime you got a Hammer Brothers suit.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you just go to town, start wrecking shit.
Absolutely.
It's great.
You lose it 4 seconds later.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
by the time
you're like, I can go to town, and you get really sloppy and you die.
Yeah. Plus, by the time you get to that point in the game, it's like super difficult because there are, especially in World. Is it World? Which is the one with the pipes with all the munchers in it?
7.
Yeah, that is a hellacious beast of a final.
I love that level.
I think that those levels are harder than the ones in the Bowser's castle / train / boat area.
I'd say that's probably.
I don't know. I tend to use the P-Wings that I've stocked up to skip a lot of those Bowser levels, whereas I like challenging myself to the Endless Muncher level.
Yeah. Angry Sun?
Angry Sun.
Angry
Sun.
So great. I need
Also,
an Angry Sun t-shirt.
I warped to the giant level here, which was another thing that was the coolest thing I'd ever seen in my entire life when I was a kid.
Yeah, exactly.
The Koopa Troopas, they are so big.
They're very big.
Yeah. Yep.
I got nothing else to say.
Yeah.
It's just fucking great.
It is fucking great. It's the best Mario game, and I refuse to amend that, Mike. This is better than Mario World, and I don't care what you say about it.
Also, I would buy
they're both
Mario
great.
Galaxy 2.
Galaxy
Those are my
super
three.
great.
Those are my 3 Mario games that you should
I
play.
mean, those are everyone's 3 Mario games, right?
I think Mario 64.
Are they? I think there's a debate to be had between Galaxy 1 and Galaxy 2.
Oh yeah, sure.
I think for
those
more
are two
people,
sides of the same.
It would be
album.
Mario 64 replacing one of those 2 as the 3D representation, but
It's a good game, but that's the wrong answer.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
3 and World are
That-
I would say that
As
both
much as everybody
Galaxy and 3D
praises-
World are both better than.
Yeah, as much as everybody praises the camera in 64, it's only good for its time, and it's not even that great for
It's still manageable
It's not
for
Mario
now.
3,
Like
yeah.
the last time I played it, which wasn't that long
Yeah.
ago, I wasn't like, I can't believe this camera. Like I was like, this is mildly
Yeah.
annoying sometimes, but it's fine.
that. Yeah, it's more that people are like, the camera is amazing. I'm like, it's not amazing.
felt
No,
really
the levels-
good to catch that rod and not without
Yes.
making it
Oh, yeah,
a bunch of
perfect.
times. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's as good as backflipping into the orb in Rondo of Blood.
So
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Okay, I'm done. So that means Joe gets 2 picks.
Because that means you have 2 picks. Well, it's
2
funny, Mike,
picks.
that you should mention backflipping into the orb in Rondo of Blood,
Yeah.
because since you guys just picked my 3 favorite NES games,
I mean, the odds
those
of
are-
those 3 games going really soon
yeah, those are
were pretty high.
Pretty high.
But I will say the top of my B tier, I guess, as we'll say, or one of my favorite NES games is Castlevania 3 Dracula's
Yeah,
Curse.
last time I had
Nice.
Contra and Castlevania 3.
See, that was going to be my second pick.
You're
I
welcome
could
to
get
that
it.
trash.
Yeah, Mike is super wrong about, if you haven't been following us for
Mute
very
Mike
long.
for the next 4 minutes.
Yeah, Mike is really wrong about Castlevania 3. Man, Castlevania 3 is sort of the platonic ideal of a non-exploratory Castlevania.
Metroidvania. Castlevania. Yeah.
It's got multiple characters, multiple paths, multiple everything. It has a password system, so you're not stuck having to do it in one. Yeah.
And again, that was something that blew my mind at the time. Was like, wait, there are 3 different characters you can play. Whoa.
Yeah, and 4 technically, because you can play as Trevor, and then you have 3 separate companion characters. Is someone typing the Great American Novel, or what's going on? It's Trevor plays great, and all 3 of the companion characters have pros and cons. I would say that Grant is better in the Japanese version, but we didn't say at the beginning, we're talking strictly the US library, by the way, no imports at this time. So I guess I'm stuck with the American version of Castlevania 3, Dracula's Curse, but the Japanese version is better.
Definitely.
Yeah, it would definitely
of gameplay.
Yeah, it and music.
Balance, but not in music. It has better music.
So it's I disagree with that point, but both soundtracks are good.
I would give this game maybe second best soundtrack on the Nintendo Entertainment System.
Super good soundtrack. Yeah.
I would say this is my number 1 and Mega Man 2 is number 2, but I ain't gonna argue.
That's also solid. Yeah.
But I think that each even though the game is rebalanced for the difficulty really, really badly in a lot of ways, it changes item drops. It changes.
You take way too much damage.
The number of hearts. Changes the way that you take damage. It also, most annoyingly, changes where you spawn to fight Dracula after you lose a life, which is like that's the worst change.
Stage before you fight Dracula. It sucks.
And in the Japanese version, it just starts you on the steps. So,
it sucks.
But all that being said, it's still a great game. It's still the best of that. Like, 1 is still super hard. 1 is harder than 3, even with the American difficulty adjustments.
I disagree with that.
For 3,
1 has some real bullshit near the end, and the death fight is almost impossible if you don't have holy water. But other than that game's quite a bit easier than 3. It also depends. It varies greatly depending on which characters you have.
Which character you have and which path you take.
Because there's some paths that are almost unbeatable without Alucard in the bat form, especially on the US version.
Right. And Grant's wall climb makes getting past some stuff kind of trivial as well, but that's balanced out in this version with the fact that he can't throw his daggers.
Yeah. Sifa is like a total glass cannon, great against bosses.
Yeah, if you can get the thunder magic with her, I don't know, it's great. Watch the Netflix series, play the video game.
I would say that of the top 4 games that we've picked, this one is the easiest to say it doesn't quite hold up as well in modern terms, just because of the stiffness of the jumping and the way that it is designed.
The cruelty of the difficulty curve.
Yeah, also, but I think that like this game is a perfect. I think it is very well balanced and very well designed around that specific gameplay that it has, but it's a pretty rough first step to have to take to get used to all that stuff.
Yeah.
Especially post Castlevania 4 Symphony of the Night, Rondo of Blood World.
This is better than Castlevania 4. All right. Well, the last thing I'm going to say, since my time is up, but the one thing that the American version has over the Japanese version is the box art is better in the American version, and not the soundtrack.
The
box art is way better
sounding.
Next.
And so the next game I'm going to pick, I'm not going to apologize to Mike for taking what he at one point claimed to be his favorite NES game, and that is Bionic Commando.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh.
I would have liked to have that one.
Where is that?
Well, you decided you'd like to have Mega Man 2 more.
I'm really sad that I had to play 5 minutes of Bionic Commando to capture footage for this, but...
Why are you sad? Because you couldn't play more than 5 minutes?
I got to a barrel that I couldn't get over because I can't jump or mantle. Bullshit.
So...
That's just because you haven't embraced the joy of the swing.
First world problem.
Yeah, I'm surprised.
Get the heck out of here, you nerd.
I didn't realize that you were such a fan of this game, Joe.
Oh my god, I love this game. Love it. And it's what I think part of what I love about it is that we talked in the Super. So I just edited the Super NES Draft into a video, and I'll put a card or whatever, a link in the end screen or whatever to go watch the Super NES draft that we did in 2011. But we talked a lot in that draft about ideas that were never properly ripped off that should have been. They're like fertile ground to rip this off and, you know, make a new game that's like this. And we talked about a million games like that for the Super NES. There aren't that many for the NES, but this is one of them. This is a platformer in which you cannot jump, but it works, and it works so well. But not for you, apparently. Watching this gameplay footage, you can't figure out how to get past this barrel.
In pure like movement, it's one of the best platformers ever played.
It's ridiculous.
This is one of those games that
how throughs go.
once you figure it out, right? Once you master how the bionic arm works, it feels so good to move around the maps and the levels with it. Like, there's a level where there's lights that you can stand on, but you slide off of them if you don't hook onto something else. And there's a stage where you have to swing from light to light. And you have to land on the lights, and before sliding off and falling to your death, you have to hook onto the next thing and swing to the next thing. And like, once you master those sections, you just are like, it feels so good, and it feels like you've earned it so much. And it's also got the Mega Man-esque thing of like a steady path of upgrades, of getting the different guns and the different...
No, it's not a very steady path of upgrades. There's one upgrade that matters in the game, and you get it really early, and you get the rocket launcher, and you use it until the end of the game.
Right, well, that's a kind of a steady path. I don't know. The three-way doesn't shoot very far, but I use it a pretty fair amount.
There's that one level where you need it to bust down a wall, and it's kind of useful because there are flying guys in that level, but every other level I just take the rocket launcher. I mean, you get some good defensive items, and like, you know.
Right, I was gonna say, and then you get the potion, you get the flares, or you can try to do the cave level without the flares in the dark, because you can see just enough of like stuff to kind of navigate your way around things.
I don't usually do that just because it's not that hard of a level, and it's not worth having an extra potion or something.
Right.
Trade off of not being able to see the platforms very well.
The only thing I don't like about this game, honestly, is the different communicators thing.
Yeah, that's really pointless.
And early on, you have to farm bullets to get more health. Like, usually in the first stage, you don't have to, but I usually get at least 1 or 2 health upgrades before moving out of the first stage.
Yeah, but one is really fast.
I think the map is kind of stupid, and not necessarily, like, especially if you compare it to a game like Mario 3, which really effectively uses the map and throws a bunch of different weird things onto it. And makes it an important part of exploring that world. Like, in this game, the map just feels completely unnecessary.
It's mostly just to penalize you by making you do overhead levels, which aren't very fun, but they do give you continues.
Yeah. And also that makes it more like Commando, because those are Commando-style levels.
But not the highlight, let's just say.
No, not the highlight.
I want to say that I really like the tone of the game and like the people that you talk to and the weird things that they say.
You like killing Nazis?
I love killing Nazis.
Yeah, one of my favorite video game quotes of all time has got to be, "Mr. Joe, I'm here to rescue you."
Eric's opening fire in a neutral zone. Like, I don't even know what he's doing in this game.
That's actually one of the things that I really like about this game is the neutral zone stuff, because it's something that was fully realized really, really well in Spelunky later on. I feel like this is probably the game that inspired the way that the shopkeepers will turn on you and then stay aggro for the rest of the...
Isn't there another game? I feel like there's an old RPG or something where you can aggro shopkeepers against you.
There's probably some... I think there's one where you can steal stuff and they will aggro.
Yeah.
But...
Yeah.
All right, anyway. Well, Bionic Commando, hell of a game. I'm sad that you got it, and not me.
Yeah, well, I'm sad that you got Mega Man 2 and not me, so... Level design is fantastic.
Okay.
You're
Eric,
nuts.
just stop talking.
There's something there. Somebody could make a good Bionic Commando game someday.
And this is another one like Contra that's better than the arcade version. Like, considerably better than the arcade version.
All right, moving on.
Kurt.
All right, so I was starting to try to strategize and then decided I wouldn't, and I would just pick the game that I think you get, at least some people were surprised I picked last time, which is Metroid.
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 It's a cool game.
I love me some Metroid. And I believe when we did the original NES Draft, I hadn't played Super Metroid yet. And it was like, no, Super Metroid's so awesome. Which one, Super Metroid is so awesome because now I've played it. But it does not negate my love of the original Metroid.
Yeah.
Which I still think is has that same sense of, mystery and exploration and, just digging around in this weird alien world, finding the power-ups and all that stuff. I mean, Super Metroid is better by far, but this game is still good, and there isn't a Super Metroid on the NES, so I'm going to pick Metroid.
That's a good pick. I think there's a lot of stuff about the original Metroid that doesn't hold up too well, I think more so than any of the other games that we've picked so far, but I think that Metroid is, I think that it is capital I important in the way that like Super Mario Brothers and Zelda are important, obviously.
Yeah.
And I think that it is also sort of unique on the Nintendo in the terms of its tone and atmosphere. There is there's a lot of like spunky platformers and, fantasy style RPGs and games about ninjas and games about burly dudes punching dudes, but there aren't many other games that are actually kind of scary in the way that Metroid especially was back then.
Yeah, creepy, and you're on this lonely, weird planet, and you're trying to figure out what the hell is going on and how to survive and do all that stuff.
Yeah, it feels very alien, especially, which is really important because like video games were super weird and abstract back then, but like I said, a lot of times they were just way more friendly, and everything in Metroid is very spiky, and the color palettes are picked to be like make you unsettled, and
they're kind of odd choices for colors, like this weird kind of blue green or whatever is kind of an odd shade. And then when you get further in and it turns like reds and oranges, and it's just like it like I said, it feels very alien, where most games would do like a blue sky and some green hills and some brown dirt or whatever. Right, and eventually, once you get the power-ups and you can like drop bombs, and suddenly you're like, wait, this spot where I thought was just solid, now I can like go through it. What's over here? Oh my god. Yeah.
Totally changes the way you interact with the world. I mean, that's the most important thing.
That mine shaft, or that shaft that you fell down and had no idea how you were going to get back up. Suddenly you get a freeze ray, and oh my god, now I can do this. Except you start falling and fucking it up.
Yeah, it invented an entirely new way to sort of interact with the game world.
It had this mysterious kind of open feeling to it. Like as a kid, I remember when I played it, it kind of felt like anything could happen in this game.
Yeah.
Even though that totally does not really the case.
Yeah, it does not get borne out, but it feels like it for sure.
Right. And the soundtrack, I don't know if I put the soundtrack, like with the soundtracks we talked about being really good, have like these sort of rockin' vibes to them, and this one does not rock, but it's very, like the title screen theme especially.
That's a beautiful piece of work.
And some dude did an analog synth cover of the soundtrack. Yeah, it's really good.
I gotta go find that.
The soundtrack.
Yeah.
I agree. That's fantastic.
But I agree with Eric. This game is capital I important, but I don't really enjoy playing it, to be perfectly honest.
Yep, I feel the same way.
It's fair. Even if they just started you with full health every time you loaded the game, that would be such a step up.
Agreed. I mean, although on the other hand, it's super easy to farm.
Yeah, but like so.
But I agree that it would.
But the auto map, if it had an auto map, that would.
Yeah.
Really, I think this is a good candidate for the Nintendo, the SP versions of games that they're putting on the Switch online service, where they
like cheats built in.
Yeah, like the
like
Zelda
filled in.
Right, like Zelda does. They give you like the white, so all the things you can get outside of dungeons, basically, you start with in the Zelda version. And I think something similar with Metroid, where you kind of still start at the beginning but have a bunch of the gear or something, would really make this game a little easier.
I wanted to say one other thing. Just that, like, one of the frustrations I had while playing it, while capturing footage, was some of these, like, levels where it's just, like, these endless vertical shafts and things. Like, that's the part that doesn't hold up especially well. Whereas in Super Metroid, it's much tighter and the world's a lot smaller and feels more unique. Anyways, it's pretty good.
Agreed.
It's a great game.
All
right. Well, that moves it back to me. So, I'm a little torn here, but... I think to keep my list, since maybe I'll be alone on the island with only my 5 games, I'm going to want a bit of variety. So I'm not.
So you're not going to pick Mega Man 3.
I'm not going to pick. Yes, I'm not going to pick Mega Man 3. for now.
Not yet.
No, it's not Ninja Gaiden 2. I'm going to go with my number one choice from the first time we did this draft, which is River City Ransom.
That was not your number one choice the first time we did this draft.
It wasn't?
Bionic Commando was your number one choice.
Okay.
The first time.
Well, then it was probably my number two choice.
It was your number two choice. I have both in front of me. I have the original list in front of me.
What are we, like 9 years later or something like that?
Yeah, just about 8.5, 8 and change.
So, River City Ransom, the one of the several Kunio games that made it over from Japan to the United States, but not without some changes, is a super fun, open world kind of brawler beat 'em up game before anyone ever talked about anything being open world. Just this, I don't know, it's a really cartoony, creative game where you can find all sorts of neat ways to inflict damage on your enemies or yourselves, or just hang out at the mall and eat like a bunch of onion rings, or go and have a bath
or eat a whole cup of coffee and the saucer all at once.
And the smiles are free.
The smiles are free.
And you can get like an enemy standing on top of a box, and then you grab a stick and you hit the box really hard, and the enemy goes flying across the screen, like riding on top of the box. Or you can pick up your friend if you're playing in co-op, or you can murder your friend by mistake over and over again if you're playing in co-op, which you probably will do. I don't know.
I always love the way that they like hold the way that they're drawn holding their dukes up. Just incredibly cute and just makes me smile.
I remember when I bought this game, it was back when I was, young enough that money was pretty hard to come by, and I was like, oh man, I don't know, this looks neat, but I wasn't sure.
You had to go beat up a bunch of kids and get money from them 35 cents at a time until you could afford it?
I was just worried that I took a chance on it, and I was so happy that I did. Like, it's got such a great possibility space. It lets you do so many goofy things for a game of this vintage. And, tons of charm, like beating up the frat boys. Are the frat boys in the pink polo shirts?
The pink shirts, I think, are the frat boys.
Just the great dialogue, the amazing art style. They
glad Eric looks like he's playing like me here.
I love getting the weapon ability Grand Slam that just makes you a complete river monster whenever you have a weapon in your hands.
Yes.
Yeah, doing what you're doing right now, jumping on top of the garbage can the bad guy's holding. Try to make
Javelin Man also is like ridiculous, bonkers. Yeah. Fatal Steps too.
Fatal Steps was just, beautiful.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just such a fun game. It's not a very long game if you know what you're doing, although play on difficult, I find that it's tough enough that you kind of have to spend some time grinding, but that's okay because
you grind
the big playground.
Yeah, I find the most effective technique is to get to Benny and Clyde and
Nintendo Power agrees with you.
Yeah, grind money out of Benny and Clyde.
Also, best version of the Double Dragon theme song ever? I think so.
The music in general, there's only like 4 or 5 songs in the whole thing. And they're killer. The main Walking Around song is one of the longest songs I can think of out of NES soundtracks. Like it's like a 2.5 or 3 minute long song with different parts to it.
Guitar solo.
Yeah, and it's this rockabilly. It's got serious like rockabilly vibes. Yeah, and then the boss music rules as well.
Yes,
this is one of the original with RPG elements games.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which is a really cool thing when this came out way back then, because that was not in every video game back then.
My only complaint about this game is that the frame rate tanks so hard when you play 2 players, because it's super fun with 2 players, but it drops down to like 12 frames a second or something.
Yeah, I don't love River City Ransom, but I have a deep appreciation for how weird and cool it is.
Best beat 'em up on the NES for sure, I think.
Yeah.
All right, and with that,
Ninja Turtle games are pretty good.
Back to Eric.
To Eric for a
Oh man!
1-2, left hook, right hook.
Oh, I get 2 now, huh?
Give him the stone
Ballad
hand.
of Love and Hate.
Oh man. Well, I feel like it'd be wrong not to pick Mega Man 3 at this point, so let's make one of my picks Mega Man 3.
didn't take it, I was going to on my next turn.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think Mega Man 2 has a stronger overall roster of bosses, and I think an arguably better soundtrack, and it's a slightly better weapon variety. But I really like the slide in Mega Man 3. It is kind of a game changer in some really important ways. It just increases Mega Man's mobility in like a really great way, and it also it opens up the level design a little bit. Yeah, and I was gonna say it also really changes the way that you fight the bosses.
Because the bosses are kind of a slugfest in the early Mega Man games.
Yeah.
Like, some of their movement patterns can be, almost impossible to avoid. And the slide makes it so that you're kind of on a level playing field. And, like, if they're going to jump at you, then you have good ways to get underneath them.
Right. You don't just have to out DPS them or tank them or whatever. Yeah. But yeah, it just I picked Gemini Man to play because this was the level where it was the easiest to do the invincibility thing that you could do with the second player.
Jump in the pits and jump out. Yeah.
Which was really cool. I really like Gemini Man Stage's style. Like, it's kind of similar. There's like a little bit of that in Flash Man, but the transparency effect that it has.
You're so bad at NES games.
While I was recording these, I was watching the Giant Bomb Extra Life stream where they were playing The Quiet Man. So I was only really half paying attention to this and just like trying to figure out what the fuck was going on with The Quiet Man.
I heard it's bad.
It's definitely a video. It's a fucking thing, man. Anyway, yeah. So Mega Man 3. By this time, they'd kind of figured out what worked and what didn't. This also has Proto Man in it, which was a really cool and weird thing. Yeah, like there's this guy that comes and sometimes he helps you and sometimes he fights you, and it seemed like a really mysterious, weird thing. You kind of looked like Mega Man, and that was kind of it was a cool twist.
He's your brother in as much as robots can have brothers.
Yeah.
I guess Mega Man also has a sister, so
we're all brothers, Joe.
Robot brothers.
This was kind of before they completely run into juice. Or I was gonna say, this is before they ran out of juice for boss ideas, but I think this actually is maybe while they ran out of juice for boss ideas.
They were in the process of running out of juice.
Top Man
and Hard Man.
Yeah, Hard Man. But you still get a couple cool ones like Magnet Man and Snake Man.
Yeah, Snake Man's pretty dope. Snake Man's stage is very good with the giant snake heads that you have to fight to progress. Like, that's one of the better mini bosses in a Mega Man game, I think.
Like, the level design is really solid in this game.
Yeah.
And, again, I don't think this game has much of the, I don't want to say unfair, but kind of unfair stuff in Mega Man 2. I think that, someone who'd never played one of these games could pick this one up and probably have a pretty good time with it, with a few fewer headaches. And I, personally, I love the Doc Robot stages. I like the kind of weird, creepy, ruined aesthetic and the super hard.
I like those weird cipher bots. I think you guys are both right, but I do like those weird cipher robots that are just imprints of the Mega Man 2 robots.
Yeah, I like the design of the Doc Robot itself. I just don't like the Doc Robot. And it's not even that I don't like the stages, because I think the stages are designed well. It's just that the Doc Robot stages and then a full 4 or 5 level Wily Castle, including the refights, is just wow, this is a lot.
But you know what makes that okay is that the passwords actually work through the Doc Robot stages.
But not the Wily Castle, because they never do until Mega Man 11.
But every other Mega Man game on the NES after this had 2 castles in a row, and the passwords would only ever take you to the beginning of the first one, and that always pissed me off.
Yeah, that's kind of true. This is definitely the second best Mega Man game on the NES.
Yeah, it's also just really cool to see the old Robot Masters come back.
That's true.
I'm like, oh my god, this is the Heat Man.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And they never did that again, which is kind of weird.
Right, that's got to be it. That's 4 minutes and 13 seconds of Mega Man 3 footage. So, because now we're watching Metal Storm.
All right. Well, is that what your next game is?
No, it's not Metal Storm.
Is it going to be anybody's game?
No, I don't think so. Man, it's pretty tough to make another pick. How about I go with Ninja Gaiden 2? Which I don't think got picked last time.
That's a good game.
Ninja Gaiden 2 is a great fucking game. I really like Ninja Gaiden also, but Ninja Gaiden 2 is just, I think it's better in just about every conceivable way, in the same way that Mega Man 2 is better than Mega Man 1 in every conceivable way.
I mean, you're wrong, but that's fine.
I'm not wrong, because this game you can climb up walls.
Climb up walls in Ninja Gaiden 1 if you're good.
Yeah,
climb
it
up
takes
walls.
a little bit of...
You can jump and shimmy your way awkwardly up walls, but you cannot climb walls.
Yeah.
The fact that you can climb walls in this game is a game changer. I think that I also really love the silhouettes of Ryu that you can pick up, those orange guys that you can follow around. I think that's a really cool mechanic, especially because it means that
it is sort of a Metal Man style break in the game in some spots, though.
Yeah, kind of, but I mean, it takes a lot more skill than using the Metal Blade, because you have to position them properly to get any kind of usage out of them. So if you can use them to kill everything without taking any damage yourself, but you have to be good at positioning them properly, or else they're totally useless. I think that this game also has better boss fights than the first game, which is the first game has just really terrible boss fights.
I don't know. I'd say they're terrible, but the first boss in this game is basically the same as the first.
But at
boss.
least he charges at you. He does something. He does something, and he looks kind of cooler than the guy in the. Anyway, I really love the way Ninja Gaiden feels. I think that the jumping and slashing and climbing stuff is pretty unique.
Spot on.
Yeah, I think it's unique in the pantheon of NES games for the most part. There's nothing else that quite feels like Ninja Gaiden, especially with the climbing and the sticking to walls and things.
And like good air control, but not perfect air control.
Yeah. Also, this game is a total fucker of a game in a way that almost none of the other games that we've talked about so far are. Like
Castlevania 3 and
yeah,
pretty close.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know if it's easier, but it feels better because you have some air control and stuff.
I think this is easier than Castlevania.
Ninja Gaiden 2 is more forgiving than the first one. They're both very hard, but Ninja Gaiden 2 is more hard.
I feel like the level designs in the first one are better. Like, they're just really, really great. And this one, they're still good, but there's some... Like, this one, it makes up for a level design by
way
being
more
like...
variety in the areas that you're going through than the first one does.
What if we just blew you into pits, like in Super Mario Brothers 2?
You know which way the
Japanese
wind's blowing, man. It's got fucking... There's snow. You know which way.
But it can shift. It can. You don't know when it's going to shift necessarily.
Well, that's you gotta go. You
You
can't don't fuck around, because if you go fast enough, then it can't shift before it blows you into the pit. I think both games. I think that the major flaw that both games have is that they respawn enemies a little bit too fast. Because you can kill a
like
thing.
What's happening to you right here?
Right, you kill a thing and then you like transition back a little bit and then transition forward and then like it spawns it again, even though you barely scroll it off the screen.
It just spawn continually.
Yeah. But other than that, I played both of these games a ton at one point, but I got to the point where I could beat them without having to continue.
Wow.
I don't know why I did that. I must have burned myself out and then not picked Ninja Gaiden at all in the last draft, and then now going back to them and playing some NES games this weekend, I decided I still really liked it. I like the variety of the power-ups in the game too, like the fire shield and the different directions and the windmill blade. There's like a really great variety of power-ups. I feel like the spinny jump blade is not quite as broken in this game as it is in the first one.
It is kind of the holy water in the original Ninja Gaiden.
Yeah, but some of those bosses are so hard that you shouldn't feel bad just jumping and slashing.
I do not feel never feel
the
bad.
bosses.
But anyway.
I like all three Ninja Gaiden games on the NES. The third one, they screwed up the American release by giving you limited continues, but all three of them, I think the gameplay of all three of them is very solid.
Yeah, they're good. They are really, really good games. Cutscenes.
Yep.
Love them or hate them. The cutscenes in these games are like well-paced, and the story is pretty interesting and weird, and they look fucking cool, which is just a thing that didn't happen on the Nintendo Entertainment System, so...
Alright, well, I guess that means it's back to me.
Just a girl, get out of here.
Yeah, I was seriously considering taking Mega Man 2 and 3 back-to-back, but I can't do that, and my Commando's gone, so I think my next choice is going to be Super Mario 2.
That's a very good
game that I love very, very much. And I could see arguments why Super Mario 3 is kind of like the good one, because it's such an impressive, huge, complicated, big thing. But Super Mario 2 for me is just like concentrated joy. Like every second of playing it is just like super fun, happiness, like amazing art style. Just like bouncing around. I don't know. It's another game that lets you kind of do weird creative stuff and like use characters like the Princess and Luigi to bypass parts of the level, or like just stack up a bunch of items and sort of see how high of a pillar you can make, or see if you can ricochet the same turnip off of like 4 consecutive enemies. I love the mechanics of just the way that you pick up and huck stuff is very satisfying. I think it controls really well. I'm the only person on Earth who plays almost exclusively as Mario because I think that his controls are just really satisfying in this game.
He's the tweener, man. Most people just lean into something, either jumping high or floating or picking stuff up real fast.
Yeah, I can't get down with Toad's jump. It's too short.
Luigi is the best, and
I think Princess is probably technically the best.
I mean, Luigi gets you places that you can't get with anybody else, and that's what I like. Like, it's a pretty short game, but it lends itself really well to experimentation.
Yeah.
And it's just super charming. Like,
there's a lot of cool places to explore and find shortcuts and things, like digging. The digging mechanic is really cool, and then they hide
trying to find the mushrooms and the warp zones and things,
yeah.
And like and weird stuff like the time stopper, that if you pull up 5 big vegetables in a row, you get the time stopper. It's kind of cool. And, digging through the pyramids and the dirt levels, you do it a little bit too much, but it's a pretty neat idea. There's like shortcuts and things.
Riding the ostrich.
Yeah, or or those slow flapping birds in like the last area.
Right. Yeah, you can jump on one of those and skip a huge chunk of one of the last stages. Yeah.
Bowser, like one of the coolest Mario bosses ever.
Okay, I have 2 very important character design related questions for you guys. Mm-hmm. The first one is the Angry Sun or the Evil Mask?
The Evil Mask
is scarier. Angry Sun.
I know. I have a hard time. I actually think that the Evil Mask is scarier because of the way it.
The Angry Sun is a hazard. The Evil Mask is like nightmare fuel.
Yeah, he's like Michael Myers or whatever. And the second question is, do you take the cast of characters from this game, like the enemy designs and shit, or the ones from the traditional Mario ones, Goombas, Koopa Troopas?
Oh Bowser. Man, I love some of the enemies in this game.
Bowser's better than Wart, but I like the Shy Guys and stuff. The Shy Guys and Ninjas, and they're better than
Bowser.
A lot of the
Triclyde.
What's the name of the flame guy?
Fry Guy.
Yeah.
No, Triclyde is the snake.
Yeah, Triclyde's the snake. Yeah.
And the Claw Grip is the giant crab.
Oh yeah, the crab.
Yeah. I'm glad we're all on the same page with that, because I actually prefer this cast of characters to the OG Mario characters.
Yeah. And they mostly just appear in Yoshi games now, for the most part.
Yeah, it's one of those games that's, again, like, why isn't there never been a sequel to this game that's just more of this? It's weird.
I mean, I'm glad that they pulled, not just in the Yoshi games, but also for Mario RPG. They borrowed Shy Guys and stuff for that, which is actually one of the most charming things about Mario RPG, is that it has all those characters in it.
I mean, in a way, the Yoshi games kind of are sequels. You don't stand on things and pick them up, but by eating them and turning them into eggs, you're sort of doing the same basic structure, right? You're picking them up and throwing them at other enemies, even though you're not doing it in the exact same way.
Yeah. I mean, does this game lose any points because it's technically Doki Doki Panic instead of Mario 2, or does that not matter? Okay.
That doesn't matter.
It's super fun.
It is.
If anything, they should just incorporate more of that stuff into the mainline Mario.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love it. I don't know what else I have to say, except that this is the one I go back to more.
Yeah, I really love the first bits of this game, but I think that some of the back half level designs are kind of shitty and kind of too long, and there's too much digging, and they're a little bit labyrinthine in a way that's not super fun. But anyway,
thanks for bringing us down.
It's a really great game.
All right, next me. I'm going with The Legend of Zelda.
Yay! I'm glad you picked it, so I don't have to.
Because you can't let it go.
I think I picked it.
Not have it be picked.
Yeah.
Yeah, I sort of decided to pick it for that reason.
I was kind of wondering when that was going to go. Eric, you picked them both last time, as a matter of fact.
I did, yeah. This is my 6-year-old self favorite game, and that will never, ever, ever change, ever.
I bet you were adorable.
Oh man, I love this game so much. I had a gold cartridge, man. I probably spent...
So are you saying...
It took me like an entire year to beat this game. I didn't have like this, and I didn't have Nintendo Power. There was that fucking map.
You just had to explore.
I still have that map, and it still has my scrawlings all over it, where I'm like marking where I'm using the the candle that you can only use once per screen. So I'm like checking off this bush that I burned with a candle, and then going off screen and coming back, and just
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Talk about hidden secrets and all this kind of stuff. That's the epitome of that kind of thing. And just saying, here, go
explore. Yeah,
figure it out. Who knows?
Find something.
There's stuff out there.
Yep.
Have fun.
We've populated this gigantic map with all these weird secrets and all these cool dungeons and all these different types of enemies and upgrades for your sword and your shield, and we're not going to tell you where anything is. You just kind of have to figure it out.
Yep.
So unlike a lot of games from the
NES,
this one wasn't really... I don't think it was ever obsoleted by its sequels, because even stuff like Link to the Past, which does kind of a similar thing, they're much more guided experiences than this.
Yeah.
I'd say that's true, yeah.
It wasn't until Link to the Worlds, I guess, that they tried to...
I mean, as
When-
far
when
as
you
feeling
got-
the same way, but...
Yeah, when you got this game, though, if you bought it new, there was some guidance. Like the first 3 or 4 dungeons are marked in order in the map that came with the game.
Yep.
So there is some level of that. It's just sort of external.
It's not
to
within.
like,
Yeah, it's
now.
not within the game.
But you don't even have to. You don't have to go in those orders.
You don't have to do it that way.
No, but even in Link to the Past, I feel like once you get to the Dark World, you can start kind of going wherever you feel like. Can't you? It's been a while since I've played all the way through Link to the Past.
Yeah, you can to a certain extent. I mean, there's a lot of areas you kind of need the hammer, but once you have that, you can kind of go and do as you please.
I did enjoy the first time playing this. You'd like walk onto a screen and go all this stuff, and you like walk back off and go, okay, all right,
Yeah.
let me now. All right, now
get
I'm
it
gonna
together.
try. All
I
right,
want to see what's going on. And
You're gonna burn every bush with the red candle, walk off and walk back on, walk off and
exactly.
There are a couple of things about this game that make it a little rough to go back to. Just diagonal walking. It's just so hard.
the game is designed around that though. Like it's not like
good.
yeah, you guys are both right, and that the game is designed around that, and it works totally fine. But also, it doesn't. It just feels bad.
Yeah.
I like this thing where
bad,
you
man.
use candle on the screen. It's just like,
Right.
it's like it's already bad enough that you have to try to burn.
Give you a
every
better
bush.
candle,
Right.
though. You get
yeah, they give you a better candle.
better candle, but you don't know that when you're 6 years old. So you have to
That's
mark on your
true.
map every time you test the
You
bush.
have to draw a little picture.
And like the first time you find out that you can do that, then you have to go and check the whole fucking goddamn fucking map like all over again. Because there might be an ogre that gives you, or
that's
pardon me,
your
there might be a
little
moblin
fuck
that
up
gives
your
you
map.
50 rupees or whatever.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
It is a secret to everyone.
Yeah.
There is one plus about this game is, I think I'm right.
The soundtrack is really
There
good.
is a day. You have found a rupee. This is worth 1 rupee.
Oh yeah, right.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah. Oh man, they
Every
ruined
fucking
Zelda.
time. Yeah,
Oh, they fixed it again with Breath of the Wild.
It's true.
they did. Yeah.
They still
worry
kind
about
of have some of that
They-
stuff in there a little bit, but
But at least every time you find a blue rupee, it doesn't right. I'm not wrong about
No.
Breath of the Wild. It doesn't go. If you found a blue rupee, it's worth 20 rupees every single
yeah.
time.
So is that an old man or is it a lady with a hat looking up? It's an important.
What?
question. The person that gives you the sword, is it an old man
It's
with a
an old
beard,
man.
or is it a lady
An old man.
looking up
No.
and with a like a big?
Now I gotta
hat
go back
on?
and look at it.
No one has
No,
ever
it's an
brought
old
that
man.
up.
I've always thought that it was a lady with a hat. It wasn't until just a few years ago that I
6-year-old
realized it
you
was
is
supposed
a
to be an
little
old man with a
confused.
beard.
It's definitely an old man with a beard.
All right, moving on. Joe gets 2 picks.
Oh boy.
Also, the opening song from Zelda is the best song on the Nintendo Entertainment System. I will brook no argument about that. The title screen
So-
song.
I mean, you make a good argument.
I
In that you make no argument.
This is tough because when we did the Super NES Draft, my tastes run counter to a lot of what everybody else sort of is into, and that's not the case as much with the NES. There's sort of this canon of really great NES games. So now it's getting tough.
We'd have to go a lot deeper into that.
Yeah. Although the first time we did this, we had some weird left field picks that I'm not going to mention now in case they come up later. But I guess I'm going to have to go with a game that has had more entries in the series, but has never been outdone in its own series since then, and it is Mike Tyson's Punch-Out.
It's good that you picked the right one.
Well, come on.
There's no other Punch-Out.
Dream?
Well, that's like the version I have. The actual cartridge that I own is the Mr. Dream version. But yeah, I mean,
this caricature of the game.
That's sort of how you delineate from it being the arcade version of Punch-Out.
Yeah, this game really takes it to the French.
Or the Wii version of the Punch-Out. I mean, it kind of does, right? Like, the French guy is the weakest, the lamest, like...
Where's the Hippo from?
The Hippo Island in the South Pacific.
Oh, South Pacific, sorry.
So, yeah, this game is just... It's... I'm really glad I have an HDMI mod in my NES, because it means that I can actually play this game on a high-definition television without it, like, lagging out so badly that I can't possibly beat anybody. But this game is one of those games, yeah, well, that's easier said than done when you're dealing with lag in a game that is very, very reliant on timing. Especially once you get into once you're in the world circuit, if you don't have, you play it on an emulator or, something that is capable of not having too much lag, because if you have more than a couple frames of lag, you're boned. But yeah, this game is just... there's nothing else like it except other games in the series, and none of them have been able to do what this one did. The Super Nintendo one went back to sort of the arcade style, and then the Wii one went back to this style, but it still just it didn't feel as good, it didn't feel as right, and it's almost because I think they did it in 3D, and so there's too much animation, which sounds weird, but there's too much animation in the Wii version, and so the timing doesn't feel crisp. Yeah, exactly. And also this thing with Nick and Rick Bruiser, or whatever their names are, the Bruiser twins, they're lame. They're not interesting. It's like the baddest dudes are these two plain-looking bald guys. They're the...
I guess I really like the way
they got against plain-looking ball.
I think so. Here's my argument for Super Punch-Out is that I think it's a much better boxing game, and that you actually get to fight characters, whereas in the back half of this game you're literally just dodging and punching pretty much all the time. There is no...
That is boxing, Eric. Punching, dodging and punching.
No, in this game you are always dodging and then punching. You never get to actually mount any sort of offense. Especially in the back half of this game, pretty much Glass Joe and Von
Super
Kaiser.
Punch-Out is...
No, in Super Punch-Out, you can almost always punch and win. The biggest exception being the final two.
I should have called it Punch and Win. That's a good name.
Punch and Win.
Anyway, I really like Super Punch-Out because I like the way that it can...
This is better, though.
I like Super Punch-Out.
Yeah, Super Punch-Out's a great game.
I like Super Punch-Out more, but this game is super good.
Yeah.
And again, in terms of the Mega Man 2-3 comparison, this is definitely the iconic one.
Yeah.
There's more stuff in Super Punch-Out, but none of the characters are nearly as memorable.
Right, and this one also had a depth of...
The sprites, they're so big.
Yeah, they used the special mapper chip to make the giant boxer sprites. And apparently they put Mario in it without asking, the main, the Nintendo EAD, Miyamoto's team or anything. The team that did this, they just put him in there without permission from the higher-ups because they wanted to. But, yeah, this was a game made for the U.S. audience as well, which is interesting. There was eventually a Japanese release, but it was primarily made to appeal to folks in the West.
Great game.
Punch-Out?
Great game. Love it.
Already?
Also, not a lot of music in this game. Soundtrack is great. And they're still finding out new things about this. The thing where you can knock out certain boxers when the guy in the bearded guy in the crowd does a certain thing. Like, that was just discovered like a year and a half ago or whatever. Like, that's ridiculous. That we're still finding things out about this game.
All right. Well, by the time we do our next draft, I want you to be able to finish this game blindfolded.
No, I'm not. That guy is super impressive. I'm not that guy.
You just use audio cues? Is he listening to it, or is he?
Yeah, he's listening. He's using audio cues.
We'll go do this some other time. All right, what's the next game?
Next pick.
Ooh, buddy.
I'm not familiar with that game.
Man. So. There's already a Ninja Gaiden game on this list, and part of me wants to pick the one that I think is better, but I don't think I'm going to do that.
I think you might have picked Ninja Gaiden last time.
I did pick Ninja Gaiden last time. This is my... No, I should have one more after this.
Regular pick. There's the lightning round after this.
Yeah.
Wait, I thought we each got 5 picks. This is my 4th pick.
We said 4 and then a lightning round.
We did.
Controller.
It's a fact.
Press start. The game will take.
Did we? So I thought we said 20. I thought we said... I'll check the tape. I thought we said 20 and then a lightning round to get to 25.
How many rounds are we doing before we call it quits?
We'll do a top 20, and then we'll do a lightning round for the last 5 to round it out. I believe that's how we have done it in the past.
That is how we have done it historically, yes.
Oh, wait, you're right, that's 5.
4 rounds would be 16.
All right, fine.
And then a lightning round to get to 20.
I was just going with
I'm
what
good at
this
math.
specifically said.
Just choose another
4 rounds. So fine, you get... This is your second to last pick.
Okay, I was also going to say... Okay. Okay, so...
For the lightning round.
Right. Okay, I'm gonna,
I got one highlighted. I think it'd be a good pick.
Yeah, it probably would be. I think, I'm gonna go with, I didn't get Contra again, so I'm gonna do the same thing I did last time and take Life Force.
I knew it.
Yeah.
Salamander.
AKA Salamander, and I do have both versions actually. I have the Japanese version of the translucent blue cartridge, which is really dope looking, and you can get an extra option in that one. You can get 3 options instead of just 2, because of the additional mapper chips, and there's some additional background animations in some of the stages, I think. Man, you suck at Life Force too.
Look, man, I'm watching the fucking Quiet Man. I don't know what the fuck you want from me, alright?
To be fair, he played Punch-Out pretty well.
Yeah, he did play Punch-Out pretty well. You can't half pay attention to Punch-Out.
I might be able to beat the first circuit of Punch-Out blindfolded.
Yeah, the first circuit I might be able to do blindfolded. But this game is, the best US released shooter on the NES.
It's true.
I would say Crisis Force is maybe a little better, but that was a Japan-only release, so I'll stick with Life Force. It adds some stuff that the arcade version didn't have, and the weird Egypt theme level, and that kind of thing. The power-up system is just really great. It's different. The power-up system is actually different than the arcade as well. Although there's like 3 arcade versions of this game, so that's not true for all of them. But in the original arcade release, you just picked up power-ups like you do in a lot of more, quote, normal shooters, rather than having the Gradius meter at the bottom. Which is why, for a long time, my friends and I always just thought this was Gradius 2, because then Gradius 3 came out on the Super Nintendo, so we're like, oh, Life Force is Gradius 2, except it's not. There's a different Gradius. There is a Gradius 2. But I always felt like Life Force was sort of that.
I'm right there with you, buddy.
This is a game that I always sort of associate with Contra, because it's a 2-player Konami game, great soundtrack. The blue thing is player 1, the red thing is player 2, just like Contra. You've got this complex, cool power-up system with different weapons and options and stuff, and it feels... Konami's output at that time was just really, really fantastic. And, as a co-op game, it's really fun. It has the 30 life code, which makes it a lot easier to sort of, like Contra, you can kind of use the 30 life code to learn the game, and then when you get good at it, you can sort of abandon that.
It also has a lot of like weird body horror stuff, which is something that has in common with Contra.
Yeah,
obviously this game does it right off the bat, whereas in Contra you don't see it so much until the final level. But
it's not until towards the end when everything gets Cronenbergian.
Yeah,
in Contra.
This feels like it could be taking place on the planet that you just briefly visit in Contra.
Right. Yeah, and there's another game called Abadox, The Deadly Inner War, which actually really takes like the Cronenbergian body horror shooter to like the nth degree on the NES, but it's not as good of a shooter as this game is. Yeah, it's all right. It's all right.
I don't know. I'm about as good at this game as Eric is, so I don't have.
Yeah, I fucking suck at shooter.
I mean, if you're playing 2 players and you use the 30 life code, you can sort of credit feed your way through it.
I should try that sometime.
You know, we should play it together, and we'll do the code and we'll credit feed through it. And again, that's how I got good at the game. That's how I sort of initially experienced it, was doing that, and then eventually I got good enough that I, like Contra, I can beat it without using the code. But you know,
this has the ring gun, which is why it's been Gradius.
Yeah, the ripple laser.
Yeah.
Which is better than the double shot for sure. I would agree.
It looks cooler and it's more effective.
Yeah,
I just can't truck with these games where you lose all your power ups when you die, and then you're just in the middle of
it.
That's actually
I totally get that.
Prefer that's why I kind of like the way the Konami code works in Gradius instead of this, because you can just use that and get a bunch of cool shit.
Get all your unless you're coming back. Oh, also, last thing then, this game has my favorite video game box art of all time.
It's really fucking good.
It's super cool. Yeah, it's a snake wrapped around a planet, and there's fire and shit. It's super fucking dope.
Yeah. You ever fight that snake?
Yeah, at the very end. He doesn't look nearly as impressive in the game.
No.
He's the final boss, basically.
At least it's not a false bill of goods.
Sure.
All right.
That was 2. It was Punch Out and Light Force.
That was first time.
Me. Yeah, so I'm gonna go with a game that I haven't actually played a ton and hadn't played before the previous NES Draft, but played it a bunch with these folks and some other folks and had a blast with it. And it's gonna be Super Spike V-Ball.
Oh, what the fuck are you doing, Kurt?
I thought you were going to say
that's supposed to be my game.
Super off-road racing.
The game rules. And I will say at this point, another rule that we didn't mention before we started is we removed combo carts from consideration, which is why Kurt didn't pick Super Spike V-Ball and Nintendo World Cup, which would have been the smart pick if that was allowed. But it's not allowed.
This is the best sports game on the NES.
Agreed, yeah. Like I said, I hadn't played it before, and then we played it when folks were visiting us here in the wonderful Washington, D.C. area, and I just had a blast playing it with everybody. And I figured it should be on the list.
I really like the way that it's like, I mean, it's volleyball, so it's a super simple game.
Right.
It really tests your timing. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like playing volleyball. You have a lot of options as far as blocking and spiking.
There's a lot to it for how simple the NES controller is and how, you're just these 2 dudes.
I actually found it really hard to pick it up because I'd never played this one before when we had that meetup.
Yeah, the timing, I mean, that's part of the reason why it's so good, is because it can be a little bit difficult to pick up at first, because you have to get good at hitting angles and getting the timing down on, especially with super spikes and stuff, where you can jump up and then hammer on the A button, and then when you hit the ball, it'll do a super spike that can bop off of guys and go into the audience and get you some free points.
Yeah, it's like sort of like Super Dodgeball.
Right. It really rewards getting good at it, right? So when you get that timing down, it feels great.
I really like that. It's pretty simple, and then it just has 4 different teams to pick from, but it's like a well-rounded team. The Arnold Schwarzenegger guys, which I like to play as, which are really good at spiking. There's the 2 guys from Double Dragon who are super fast and good at just digging and getting...
Oh, just like in Double Dragon, where you're so fast.
They've been working out since then, man. They dropped some other weight, and then they got real fast. And then there's another team that's really good at blocking, which is also... That's actually the easiest way to beat this is like the normal cup that I'm playing, and then there's a World Cup, which is much more difficult, and the blocking team is a little bit easier to win with there because the super spikes just aren't as effective. But I played a ton of this game, and I think that it's a really fun single player game because you just get into a good rhythm, and it's also it's one of the best 4-player games on the NES because there's 4 people in beach volleyball, and everybody gets to play as a guy, and you get to yell at each other for fucking
really
up
nice
the hits or getting out of time, and you're supposed to be at the net, you're supposed to be behind, who's supposed to be, it's got all that good shit.
God damn it.
Does the NES version have ladies that you can unlock somehow, or is that only in the arcade version?
That's still in the arcade version.
So much like my friend had Super C instead of Contra, the game that I had instead of this was Kings of the Beach Volleyball.
I'm so sorry.
That's not as good a big
to have a lot of fun with that
game
somehow anyway. I don't know if that's really weird or if it's it's definitely not. It's definitely not flashy and exciting the way this game is.
Right. It's that game is totally fine. I think doesn't it also have more people on the court at the same time?
More people. No. It was 2-on-2.
Is it 2-on-2?
But I felt like that game also had a lot of depth to the controls, but I don't know because it's really hard to go back to because it's ugly and slow and weird.
Yeah, it is ugly and slow and weird, which is this game is not. Like this game actually looks pretty good even now. It also has this is like the most underrated soundtrack in all the NES library. It has fucking great music, especially when you get to New York and Chicago.
It's possible that there's a lot of really good music on the Nintendo Entertainment System.
I feel like Technos is just generally an underrated developer on the NES, and sort of like a lot of their games were published by people who aren't them. So I feel like even the games that do get a lot of praise, like most notably Double Dragon 2, those were published by Trade West and Acclaim respectively. So people aren't like, oh, Technos. But like River City Ransom, that was Technos. This is Technos. Super Dodgeball was Technos. All their sports games on the NES are super good.
Yeah.
Super Dodgeball, Kunio basketball, Nintendo World Cup, which is Kunio soccer.
I fucked up bad not picking this last time, and now this time
I was like, nobody picked that.
Yeah,
the wrong has sort of been righted now, though.
It's good. It's on the list. It should be. This is, like I said, I think this is the best sports game on the NES.
All right, Mike.
Yeah. All right. We're kind of getting into the weird zone at this point. I think all my ringers.
A lot of the NES library is the weird zone. To be fair,
it is. A lot of my ringers, like the games that I can really stand behind, are gone. So I think I'm gonna pick one that has issues, but that I just like a lot, and that game would be Star Tropics.
Oh. Okay.
But you can't walk on angles, Mike. It's a top-down action RPG. You can't walk on angles.
It's designed around that, so it actually kind of works. You can't walk on an angle in that game, but you know what you can do is drift.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. You can jump too.
Game.
It's Zelda Tokyo Drift.
No, I don't know. So that game is definitely weird. It's an odd duck. It has extremely specific control scheme, I guess. Like, I've never played another game that plays like this one does. And you have this weird thing where, you're locked in a grid, but you kind of have this momentum, and so you can keep walking into the next tile while changing your facing and attack, or you can try to jump while you're doing that, but it just jumps straight up and down, which is not very useful most of the time. It's pretty hard. I wouldn't put it up there with the hardest NES games that I've finished, but it's not too far below stuff like Ninja Gaiden and Castlevania 3 in terms of difficulty level. But it's extremely unique in its setting and tone. Like, the things you don't get in a lot of other games is this kind of South Pacific setting and really goofy tone, but then also cuts kind of like retro 50s sci-fi horror towards the end, I guess. Mm-hmm. And I suppose probably very offensive to anyone who is actually from the South Pacific. But I don't know. I really enjoy playing the game. I like that it has this super mean trap early in the game where you are finding secret items and you walk into this room and immediately die. And I love that because it doesn't actually do that very much, but it makes you spend the rest of the game thinking that it's going to dump you in the water for kind of no fault of your own, which kind of heightens the tension. I don't know. I like the submarine. traipsing around and driving through the tunnels, and I love the fact that your main weapon is a yo-yo, which can eventually, it takes a super long time before you get to upgrade it, but eventually it turns into some sort of weird flail thing, and you're a kid who loves to play baseball. Also, I think of all the video game characters in the world, I resemble Mike from Star Tropics more than any other, because my hair does that now.
You know, Mike, I just realized something.
What's that?
You pick a lot of games with butts in them.
Did you see that pig butt?
Is there a butt?
Did you see that pig anus spread? I was going to bring it up.
That pig has a butthole.
That pig has a goddamn butthole.
In the Super Nintendo Draft, you picked Out of This World, which has alien lady butts.
And also, one of Mike's favorite video games is Doom, which has cacodemon buttholes.
Mm-hmm. And also, he picked River City Ransom, which you can go in the sauna, and there's butts.
Yeah, that pig butt, man. I was not expecting that. That kind of blew my mind the other day when I was playing this, capturing this footage.
If it's got butts, I'm into it. So does anyone else like this game, or am I the only one?
Yeah, I like this game. I like this game more than Zelda 2, to be perfectly
I like
honest.
it, but for this style, I think I'd rather play Crystallis. Which is not exactly the same, but it's
a more normal playing game.
Crystallis lets you ride a dolphin, and this game, despite being taking place in the tropics, does not let you ride a dolphin. But you can't ride it.
Well, no, it's a baby.
Yeah, well, so it should grow up, and it should be like the dog in Metal Gear Solid 5. You save it as like a pup, and then it grows up and helps you out.
This game gives you a submarine with Rob the Robot for your navigator.
Yeah, and you have to dip that letter in water. So I got that game as a rental, and the rental store that I went through as a kid photocopied manuals so that if someone lost it, they could just photocopy another one. And I didn't get why nothing was appearing on the page that I was dipping in the water. Obviously, it didn't photocopy the invisible ink that appeared when you did. So that was when I stalled out. I didn't get past that because I couldn't find the code.
They didn't give me the letter, so I dunked the manual thinking that it was in there. I felt bad.
They photocopied the letter and gave it to me, but I was like, what's the point? Because it doesn't...
Thankfully, I had Nintendo Power.
I did not have that issue at that time. So...
You had the issue that you didn't have the issue.
That's right.
Eric.
All right, Eric gets 2.
Oh, I get 2, eh?
That's it. No more for you.
That's no more for me.
Until the lightning round.
Alright, we can go off the board from what we picked last. I don't think Bubble Bobble got picked last time. I think Bubble Bobble is one of the great co-op games of all time. I think it's got a lot of charm, a lot of spunk. I think it is super simple because it's kind of an early NES game in terms of its look, but I think that the look is appropriate for what the hell's going on.
Yeah, and as an arcade game, I think it came out a few years before it hit the NES, I want to say.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, it's missing some of the things that earmarked the sort of generational leap forward that the NES represented over the earlier arcade games and Atari and stuff like that. It's all single screen things and you're kind of just running around jumping up and down and killing guys for points. But I just think it's a really fun co-op game where you kind of you can work together and run around and jump up and bubble dudes, and I think it's a really satisfying thing when you pop the bubbles and the guys fly around and turn into fruit.
Candy and fruit.
Mostly fruits and vegetables, I think. I think that it's really cool that it has a weird secret ending.
I think the one track of music in this game makes me insane.
It does. Yeah, especially it's fine for 2 minutes, but then by the time you get to level 20 or so, you just want to...
There are 100 levels in this game.
Yeah, you want to cut your ears off. And
stages, and I want to Van Gogh my shit when I'm... Yeah, I don't know. I like this game. I would not have drafted it, but I do enjoy Bubble Bobble. I think it's a very solid game. Also, the ending is kind of bull. If you play through the whole game by yourself and endure that music for 100 levels, and then the ending just is a big middle finger, I don't love that.
I think it has a lot of really cool mechanics. I think like the way that you can like blow bubbles and bounce on them, and also use the various like you have to blow bubbles and find where the air currents are, and then use those to navigate some of the more complicated levels. I really like these water bubbles that come up and like push you around. I like the fact that when you kill all of their brethren, the last enemy turns pink and starts flying at you really fast. I like that there's a non-shown time limit where evil white whales will come and murder your fucking
Baron von Bubba. Yeah. And when we still did written articles for Halloween every year, one of our contributors wrote an article about Bubble Bobble for Halloween, and specifically about Baron von Bubba.
Yeah, it's horrifying.
And how like horrifying.
Another thing that Spelunky borrowed.
Yeah. Well, that kind of came from Berserk initially, right? Evil Otto.
You're true.
Was sort of the first in a long line of unkillable sort of time limit baddies that would just show up if you dawdled too much. But yeah, this game is one of like many sort of single screen puzzle, like Snow Bros kind of followed in this mold, but is not as good as Bubble Bobble, but it's sort of the same general feel of like an action puzzle platformer single screen thing. And there's a Bubble Bobble 2, and it's a late era Taito game on the NES, which means everybody is sure that it was only a rental, which I'm not certain that it's actually true, and it fetches like a gigantic sum of money.
That game's okay. I don't like that game as much as this one.
Yeah. Bubble Bobble is a weird lineage as a series. Like, there's multiple sequels to it that are, like, not necessarily related. Like, there's Rainbow Islands, and then there's Bubble Bobble 2, which are both kind of Bubble Bobble 2, but not really. And then
your cool little
Parasol Stars.
Show up and
they had Bust a Move.
Yeah. I like bobbling things. Puzzle Bobble's a great series.
Yeah. First, Bust a Move or Snood?
Bust a Move, Bust a Move. Puzzle Bobble. Snood is a freeware ripoff of Puzzle Bobble.
But yeah,
is that it? No more thoughts.
I mean, it's such a simple thing that gets really difficult because of the way the levels are designed later on.
This must be when the quick look about the Quiet Man ended, because you're playing this game well. So.
I've also played a lot of this, so some of that might be muscle memory. So I get to pick again?
Yep.
You do.
Oh boy.
Fifth and final game.
Wow. Oh boy. What's still left here? That's pretty good. That's a good game. There's a lot of good games left on the NES. Although I think the top tier stuff is all gone. Oh fuck it. You know what? I'll go with another single-screen, puzzly action game that I loved as a kid, and I think that I did not pick this last time because we were going on the conceit that it was a desert island game, and I had already solved all the puzzles in this when I was a kid, and I could probably make my way through it pretty quickly. I think actually, in the lightning round, maybe I picked Lolo 3.
Say, this could be another game where the music drives you crazy.
You did pick Lolo 3.
Did I?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought I did because I had not played. I still haven't played through all of Lolo 3, so that would make sense in a desert island scenario where you need, like a long puzzle game to figure shit out. But this is the Lolo game that I played and loved. And I think that the puzzles in this game are just fucking devious. It starts out as this really easy, really laid back thing, and then by the time you get to like the third floor, almost every room you have to almost sleep on it to figure out how to get fucking from one side of the room to the other. There's so many hazards and they're so devious in the way that they place them. And
I
also
will say I didn't play this game till I was an adult, and it wasn't that hard.
No,
but I did.
The later stages. Did you play through the whole thing, Mike, or did you?
I finished it.
You did finish it.
I will say the first time that I had to take a half step to solve a puzzle was like a galaxy brain moment.
Yeah, I think that it actually. I mean, so like 2 and then 3 sort of pick up where this leaves off, so it just gets harder and harder and harder the further into the series you go.
Right. Once you get to the things that, like, if you step in front of them, they instantly murder you. think that's where you start getting into.
Well, it's like even I think that this game does a really good job of onboarding you, especially throughout the entirety of the first level, where you can just kind of you can pretty safely learn how all the things work. And you can kind of solve puzzles in various different ways, and then by the time you get like into the middle of the game, a lot of the times there's only like one really viable solution. You just have to. Sometimes it's just trial and error, and sometimes it's like you have to figure out how to float an egg over some water and then get on and off the egg fast. And there is some elements of timing and. Not really platform or even twitch, but you do have to be precise in your movements in order to finish the game. I don't know, it's a really simple concept that I think that they do a really great job with. There's a ton of Lolo games, not just on the NES, but
MSX, I think.
Right, Eggerland,
right? Yeah.
they are called on the MSX. And also Eggerland 3, I think, has one of the most horrifying pieces of box art I've ever seen in my entire life.
I'm not gonna have to look that up.
Yeah, I should have had that beforehand. Maybe I'll try and find it while you guys are talking next, and I'll put it up on the stream. It's really, really good. It's a real life Lolo, and it will.
Oh man.
Yeah. So anyway, I know that's the Adventures of Lolo. There's a lot of great. There's like these stone guys that will block you into position. There's a little leaper grasshopper guy that will follow you around and then fall asleep if he touches you, so you have to like manipulate him into the right areas. There's guys that will shoot fireballs at you when you walk in front of them. There's guys that will shoot things that will go through pieces of cover. There's just a million different ways that they will fuck with your expectations of how the various rules of the world work. And then once you figure all that stuff out, then they will start to really give you a really hard time.
Yeah. This game has a suicide button, right? Like that's what you just did. So if you know you screwed up, you can just restart.
You can murder Lolo as many times as you want.
So long before I ever played this game, I was sent a mixed tape in the mail of NES music by One Brick Road, and I don't know who was with me at the time that I discovered this, but it had a version of this song on it that was looped for 33 consecutive minutes. And I was listening to that mixtape while we were playing games on Xbox Live on the Xbox 360, and some subgroup of people that I was playing with just heard me have this realization that the song had been playing for like 9 consecutive minutes, and I was going to ride it out until it stopped. 33 minutes later. And it will be ingrained in my memory forever. I like the game anyway.
It's Brutal Truth's Pray all over again, which is just like 4 notes of the guy screaming Pray, and then they loop it for 45 minutes at the end of
this should make
Sounds from the Animal Kingdom, and then also every time they play it, they degrade it just a little bit, and so by the end of the thing, it's just like this horrific cacophony of
it's like the opposite of You Suffer.
An art project.
It's so good. It's so fucking great. Anyway.
Okay, I guess it's my turn?
Yep.
It is your turn.
Well, I don't know. I'm gonna go with DuckTales. Yeah. Joe is clearly a Konami fan, but I am a Capcom man. I think almost all of my favorite games from this era are made by Capcom. And DuckTales comes from a time when you could say the words licensed game without immediately assuming that it's going to be a big old piece of crap.
In fact, if it was made by Capcom, you would assume that it would be a pretty fucking good game, because Capcom made a whole shitload of really good licensed games.
Yeah.
Also, I'd like to point out that I just did an entire series of videos about Capcom.
Yeah, I'm just saying, man.
Categorizing me as...
I think Konami's got your heart.
Maybe on the NES, but I don't know about overall. Anyways, whatever. DuckTales rules. It's the best Capcom Disney game on the NES. It's the best Capcom Disney game, period.
And there are some other good Capcom Disney games, so it's not like you're just saying that because there's no competition for it.
Yeah.
I mean, it basically has one really cool mechanic that, you pogo stick on stuff, and it's super fun. It's relatively short and relatively easy, but just like completely filled with charm. I believe it was made by, if not the Mega Man team, then a lot of people from the Mega Man team.
That seems likely.
Yeah.
I can't confirm that, but it seems extremely likely based on how it plays.
And, you know, it's got catchy music and fun, kooky monsters and a really cool mechanic that inspired several other games over the course of history.
My God. Thanks, Eric.
And I don't know that I have like a billion things to say about it aside from that. I remember when I when I bought an NES like maybe 10 years ago to kind of relive the nostalgia since I'd sold my NES to buy my Super Nintendo. I picked up a couple cart games that I figured would never see re-releases, and so this is one of the first games that I got on cartridge. But I was like, yeah, right, like, look, we'll never see this on Virtual Console. And it turns out I was completely wrong.
Well, you're completely right that we'd never see it on Virtual Console.
Yeah, we never saw it on Virtual Console, but in fact it did get a re-release alongside basically every one of these games, the Disney NES games.
All the Disney Afternoon ones. There's a couple of the Little Mermaid, Magic Kingdom. I think there's maybe one more that didn't.
Rescue Ranger. Oh, you saying that didn't?
No, Rescue Rangers and Rescue Rangers 2 did. Yeah.
Yeah, and this game got a sequel, which I basically never played. So I don't know.
It's all right.
The common wisdom is that it's not as good as the original.
Anyway, so I don't have much else to say about this game.
I love pogoing.
Moon music.
I love pogoing, but it's kind of the only thing I really love about this game. I think the level design is kind of a mess. I think it'd be really difficult to design levels around that pogo jump, so I kind of understand why it's that way, but it's not very tight, it's very messy, and there's like stuff all over the place, and I don't know, like I said, the degree of difficulty to make levels that would feel good with that mechanic is very, very high. So,
yeah.
I don't know. I think it works. It wasn't on my short list to draft, but it's a pretty good hop and bop type of platformer. I'm with it.
All right. Well, move on then.
All right. So my last pick. I think I need to go with Super Mario Bros.
Oh yeah, I like that game. That's a good video game.
Yeah.
Man, that's a weird game.
It is a weird game.
It is a weird game.
It's a good one, though.
Yeah. There's a lot of good, as I had noted before, I'm a platformer fan, and there's a lot of good platforming in that game.
What's nice is that it's not actually a game that was made obsolete by the later games, because it feels and plays differently than the later Mario games. I think so. I don't know. I went back to Mario, the original one, because it was the first video game I ever showed my son, and he got super into it. And at one point, he wanted me to play it a bunch. I'm actually much better at this game than I ever was as a kid. I would say more often than not, I will at least finish the game, on a single credit. I won't guarantee no deaths or anything, but
that's pretty good.
And yeah, like it's got a different feeling, different sense of momentum. The jumps are a little different.
Jumps are very weird in this game.
Yeah, so I don't know. I had fun going back to it.
It does have its very own sort of sense of physics.
Yeah, it was my great disappointment in Mario Maker was that the Mario 1 skin was not controlled like original Mario.
Right. Well, none of the skins change the physics, right?
Yeah, I did think that was.
But if
that would have been a lot of work. I feel like
so
Mario 3 and World and New Super Mario Brothers all kind of refine them or just like retune them, whereas the difference between Super Mario Brothers and then Super Mario Brothers 3 and then further into the series is just a total, like, it feels totally different to me.
But also good, like, on its own merits, it's a simpler game, but it's still really well put together.
Oh yeah.
I mean, even so, I mean, it is simpler. There's less concepts in play, but there's a lot here too.
There is.
And
I think it's still fun for the most part.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, no,
it's a
there's
little purer, more pure.
more pure. Sure.
It's easier to say than purer.
Also, I feel like it's weird that people this question doesn't go around as much now because people are less up their ass about it, but like for a while there was this thing about like, when are games gonna have their Citizen Kane? What's the Citizen Kane of video games, man? And I was like, it's Super Mario Brothers. What are you talking about? We had the Citizen Kane of video games, and it happened in 1985. It's fucking Super Mario.
Because you watch movies and you play video games, and this is the one that changed how you played video games.
Yeah.
Right. In the exact same way that right.
Probably the
Citizen
most
Kane was a
influential
sea
game
change.
on our list.
Probably the most influential game in the history of video
That's
games.
the other thing I was going to say, as Eric was, saying Metroid capital I important. Obviously, this one is very much so.
Yeah, I think that this holds up better than that does, though.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yes, agreed.
But yeah, this game is capital I important and capital G good.
Yeah, it's a great game.
Both of those things are true. Yeah.
Capital G.
I would rather play either of the other two Super Mario Brothers games on the NES.
Yeah, I
than
might
this one.
rather play this than Super Mario 2 sometimes.
I
Depends.
definitely would rather play 3 than this, but
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
I don't know what it is about me, but I just I loved 3 when I was younger, but I don't want to go back to it very often these days.
Like it too.
Yeah, I don't know. Something's wrong with you.
Yeah, it's broken.
They just made a better game, called it World.
I don't see. To me, those two games aren't really that similar.
They're not.
Because
they're not that
World
similar.
is so much more about exploration, and 3 is so much more about platform challenges.
The bite-sized levels and the platform challenges and the suits and
That's why I feel like, to me, they are equally good, but they occupy slightly different spaces.
Side, Eric.
So, one of the most interesting things about this game that I just had to insert here in case people haven't seen it is a YouTuber named Summoning Salt did and I'm saying this because Eric is on World 4.2 now, did this whole long video about how 4.2 is like the speed running sort of, it's like the pivot point on which speedruns of this game turn.
Didn't somebody
And
just
so there's this like
set a new world record in this also in speedrun?
Yeah, because they figured out how to quickly move through World 4.2.
Oh, really?
Like, it's literally, it's the axis point on which all of the speedruns and world records turn.
Do or die.
Yeah, it really is. And so there's it's a video by a user called Summoning Salt, and I think it's just called Super Mario Brothers World 4.2, where there's like a little bit fancier of a title than that. But like, if you search Summoning Salt 4.2, you'll find the video, and you should watch it if you're into video game history and speedrunning and like playing stuff at a high level, because it is bonkers, like to what level they go to figure out World 4.2 and Super Mario Brothers just to shave like a tenth of a second off of a speedrun. It's ridiculous.
Nice. Okay.
That
Joe,
makes it my last pick.
final pick.
So this is one of those things where it's like, if it was a desert island thing that we were still sort of sticking with that conceit, I would maybe say Ninja Gaiden 1. Because I do really like Ninja Gaiden 1. I like it more than Ninja Gaiden 2.
Follow your heart, Joe.
Yeah,
Well, if I'm going to follow my heart, no, there really isn't. You know, there's a lot of games like this, like games in this category that I thought about as I was sort of leading up to this were like Power Blade,
Action Kung Fu.
Not that one. That's a good one. I do like that game, but it's not great. It's not top 20. No, you shut your. What about that game is like Ninja Gaiden? The bumper car mini game is really like.
Kid Cool.
That wasn't Mickey Mouse. No, so I like stuff like Power Blade and Shatterhand and Vice Project Doom all kind of fit in this mold of these like sort of second tier but still really good 2D action games that maybe aren't to the level of Contra or Ninja Gaiden 2. Yeah, Mappy Land. But the one that I have to go, can I say it now? Are you good, Eric?
Yeah,
did you find something?
Good. You're not watching your screen,
Smurfs.
must be.
So I'm going to go with Batman.
Ben. Barker Bill's Trick Shooting.
Barker Bill's Trick No, Batman for the NES, which is another one of those licenses, like, as Mike was saying, licensed games, and people sort of blanch at them, and kind of always have, but there's always been ones that have sort of stood above that. And Batman it really doesn't resemble the movie very much for the most part. Like the beginning and then the end are kind of sort of like the movie Batman. But it's just a really, really solid action game. I would put it just a little bit above stuff like, like I said, Shatterhand and Power Blade, and I like all those games, but this Batman 89, just a little bit better to me. That the platforming and the wall jumping feels really good, and sort of learning the wall jumps helps you get through some of the tricky platforming spots later in the game. You get 3 sub-weapons that you it's sort of like Ninja Gaiden's power-ups or Castlevania's power-ups, but you always have access to all 3 of your sub-weapons. And the deal is that each of them uses a different number of the ammo. So there's the Batarang, which just uses 1 ammo, and then I think the Dirk is the sort of the powerful 3-way shot. That one uses like 5, and I think the missile uses 3, if I'm remembering correctly. Yeah. And so,
it's 3.
Yeah, it's just a really good example of a licensed action game, and it's up there. It's up there as one of the best Batman games, like right along with Arkham Asylum. I think there's not a ton of great Batman games. There's some good ones, but this one is really still one of the best Batman games out there. And again, soundtrack, man, Sunsoft did some really dope soundtracks in the NES era, and they had a special add-on chip that they used as well that sort of helped them get some additional sound horsepower out of some of their games. And so, yeah, I don't know. I don't have a ton to say about it, except it's just a really, really solid action platformer. I made a video about it forever ago, like 6 or 7 years ago now, but Batman rules.
I agree, that is a very good game. Next.
So now, does that take us to the lightning round?
I believe so. That's 20, right?
Yep.
So last time we did this, we wanted to get a nice round 25, and so we all unanimously decided that Super Mario Brothers should be on there because nobody picked it. But now somebody did pick it.
We'll figure it out when we get back.
So, okay, so we're gonna do that. We're just gonna pick our 4, and then we'll unanimously decide on something we missed and be like, oh, it should be this thing.
Yep.
Okay. Does that mean it's on me?
Yeah, you're up, I think. Right?
Lightning round.
Back to you, lightning it. I feel like you're really getting into the spirit of the whole lightning.
I know.
He's been struck by lightning.
It's hard. Yeah, I read it. I'm struck by lightning. Super C.
That's also not in here. You motherfucker.
It's a lightning round.
We don't have time.
It's a lightning round.
You just
pick one of your games that you recorded and stick it up and fuck it.
You just put a clip of.
Find Nintendo Action Set box and just put that on the stream.
All right, so my turn. I think I'm gonna go with Zelda 2 because I like the fighting and I like bouncing off of people.
It's not your turn. Actually, it's Kurt's turn.
Oh, all right.
I'm not gonna pick Zelda 2 just to fuck you over.
I'm
gonna pick. I'm gonna pick Tengen Tetris because I played the shit out of that game.
Yeah, I think you picked that last time as well.
I did.
You did.
I did, and I decided to repick it.
It is definitely the best Tetris game on the NES.
Yeah.
That was actually going to be my suggestion for the 25 to round.
Yeah, I got it, and then it wasn't available anymore. But it's really, really good, and
it has 2-player mode.
Yeah,
it does have 2-player mode. That is what I was about to say. It has a dope 2-player mode. So, but it's Tetris, and
it's got a couple of 2-player modes.
It tracks
actually
how many of each block you've got for no reason, just to have something on the second screen, which I really like.
That's true. Yeah,
so you can get mad that you haven't gotten enough line pieces.
It's such a good Tetris. It's a very good early Tetris. It's not quality. Man,
it's no Tetris Battle Guy.
If Tetris Effect was on PC, I would buy a VR headset to play it, but.
I am seriously considering getting a VR headset to play that.
There's some Black Friday
bundles. It's real good just by itself, and I can't imagine how mind-blowing
Supposedly that robot platformer is really good. Anyway.
Right now, who's not embracing the lightningness of this, all right?
I managed to fucking run through this in like less than 2 hours, so I feel like I'm not super
pretty good. Yeah. All right, Mike.
I already said mine, but I'm gonna pick Zelda 2 because as busted as that game can be, I really like the way the movement feels. I like the combat. I like the bouncing off of dudes. Or no, I don't like the combat. There are times when it's just terrible, but I love breaking the combat by bouncing off of dudes.
But you have to earn the ability to bounce off of dudes first and getting there.
Yes, and I love that part of the game. Just that like harrowing run through Death Mountain, where you're just like hoping and praying that you'll survive long enough to
get that hammer
and get the ultimate reward.
The hammer or the down thrust?
Well, the hammer gets the down thrust pretty. I can't remember the exact order, but I know that Death Mountain and it's hard.
That's a game that I've tried to revisit. Like I keep trying to be like, there must be something I'm missing, and every time I revisit it, I'm just like, nope, it's just not clicking. Just doesn't.
Fair.
Just not getting there with me.
There is
every time.
I wish there was a Zelda 2 too, because there are some really great things about Zelda 2 that I love and adore, but it just doesn't. This isn't the best version of this game, but
it's really easy to get lost in the dungeons because they don't do a lot to signpost where you are, and there's not like a map. So you're just like, this hallway looks really familiar. I think I've been down here, but I'm not sure.
Even just the bigger variety in the backgrounds in the palaces would help alleviate that. I mean, there's a ton of problems. Although Down Thrust, man, 20 years later they put it in Hollow Knight and made one of the best platformers of all time. So there's something to the Down Thrust. And the way it works in this game just feels...
It takes a little more skill in Hollow Knight than in Zelda 2, though. In Zelda 2, you just hold it and bounce.
Zelda 2's got, like, actual physics to it.
Yeah.
You use the down thrust. In Hollow Knight, you get a very...
You just slash down and bounce.
You just have the same bounce every time in Hollow Knight, so you have kind of...
Yeah. You can slide off in Zelda 2. I love Zelda 2.
It's not a perfect game. Moving on.
All right, well, that's it. Unless, no, it's not. Eric has
I didn't enjoy it. Look.
Yeah.
I'll laugh if Eric picks a game he hasn't captured.
No, I'm not going to pick a game I haven't captured. I have still, man, toughy. Let's go with, I'll go with something else we didn't pick last time, since that's kind of fun, and take Tecmo Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Which is the second best sports game on the NES. I played...
I think Baseball Stars would like to have a word with you.
Yeah, that game's alright, whatever.
I like Baseball Stars, but Tecmo Bowl or Tecmo Super Bowl they're better.
Yeah, Tecmo Bowl is a great sports game, and that's probably the one that most people played with the broken.
It has like Invincible Bo Jackson.
Yeah.
So.
Which is fair, because in 1986, Bo Jackson seemed invincible.
He seemed invincible.
Yeah. And then he fucking ripped his leg off, and it turned out he wasn't. But anyway, so Tecmo Super Bowl plays just like Tecmo Bowl, except that it has all the teams and it has all of the players from all the teams, and it tracks stats over the course of seasons. So you can play a season of football, and you can throw 1 million touchdowns to Brian Blades because you're a Seahawks fan and that's the best player on the team. And you just you take Dave Craig and you run him from the yard, the line of scrimmage back into the end zone, and then you throw an 80-yard touchdown pass from one end zone to the other, and it's
or you can take the Green Bay Packers, and it's like playing on the hardest possible difficulty. That was during the dark times.
Hey,
we refer to it as the Mikowski era.
At least you and I were both in the same boat, though. That at least our teams were in this game.
Yeah, right. Because they're not in the first one.
Yeah.
I love that there's dedicated people out there who update the rosters, ROM hack this game every year to update the roster.
It's really good. There's more plays in this game. There's a greater variety of plays. It's just
only 2 plays on, or two run plays, 2 pass plays on.
Each team kind of has its own playbook. It's just, I don't know, it's really cool. I love the cutscenes and stuff that they put in for the
high five, like the 3-frame high five.
Yeah, there's just a lot of really cool things about Tecmo.
I played a lot of television football, though.
And I really...
It's totally the same thing.
I cannot stress how mind-blowing the stat tracking was to me when I was a kid. That was like, just the ability to, like I said, that it would keep track of all of your stats over a full season was just really, really
I think Baseball Stars was actually the first sports game to do that on the NES, I believe. That you can play a season.
Anyway.
All right.
Okay, so that's our 24. So I'm gonna nominate 2 games, and you guys tell me I'll take the temperature of what for our 25th to round it out. I would say either Final Fantasy or Dragon Warrior should be our number 25.
I think last time Mike picked Final Fantasy to...
I believe he did, yes. Somebody did. Somebody picked Final Fantasy.
I mean, I have captured footage of Final Fantasy, but not Dragon Warrior.
Well, let's not have that. That doesn't need to be the
In some ways, I
determining
think if
factor.
we're going to pick one to be symbolic, I would actually go with Dragon Warrior because that's the one. We put up footage of Final Fantasy. But Dragon Warrior is the one that basically defined the console RPG.
Yeah,
in
but
some ways,
that game is fucking almost unplayable because of the way the menus work in it. It's so.
like have to choose the stairs to go down the stairs.
Yeah, no, I don't. I don't like it.
That's
I
really
hate it. If I,
annoying.
there are better. If I want to play a game with a menu action system on the NES, I would play Shadowgate or Deja Vu or Maniac Mansion.
What about the one game that brings everyone together? Ivan the Iron Man Steered Super Off-Road Racing.
I love that
know.
game, but the Super Nintendo game
Yeah.
is so much better.
No, it's not 4 players on the Super
It's true.
Nintendo.
That's true.
That's true. But the fact that there's only like 4 courses, or is it 6 or 8 courses out of the, like,
It's not
32
many.
that there should be is pretty.
Eric, why are you naming this? Is not Final Fantasy V. This is Final Fantasy 1.
Fun for half an hour.
So yeah, Final Fantasy is an important game. There are no RPGs on the NES that I could play now. I don't like them. I appreciate them. I hammered away. I got Dragon Warrior as part of the Nintendo Power.
Yeah, I
bundle
think I
when
did
was a
too.
kid, and I gave it a shot, and I played quite a bit of this too. But it's just these games need the quality of life improvements that you see in the Super Nintendo versions.
Well, let me do this. Let me say this. Here's some games that we picked last time
Okay, I like this.
that we did not pick this time.
All right, you have to go
Pro
alphabetical
wrestling.
order with
I'm
the
just
balloon
going down.
fights.
Are you gonna try to do this in alphabetical order? Really?
That's
I was
the
just gonna go
order.
down the list.
All right, that's fine.
Oh, okay. Pro wrestling, we did not pick this time.
That was one I picked.
Crystallis, we did not pick this time.
Pro wrestling is a tough ask in 2018.
Yeah.
I picked it
that
purely
game.
for nostalgia factor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Crystallis,
Pick it again.
Blades of Steel, we did not pick this time.
Yeah, but maybe ice hockey's better.
Super
Ice hockey's
Dodgeball.
so much better than Blades of Steel.
I
I'm
agree.
pretty sure
I
I
haven't
pretty sure
played ice hockey.
gave Kurt a ton of shit about that when we
Yeah.
did it.
You
But
did.
I
And was
also
like,
captured
I've only
footage
played
of
Blades
ice
of
hockey
Steel.
because it's the third best NES sports game.
Sports game.
And you can just pick a whole team.
How are you not putting Punch Out in there? How
Because Punch-Out's not a sports
over
game.
Punch Out?
Punch
okay.
Out's not a
Rhythm
sports
game.
game. Yeah, it's a rhythm game. It's an
rhythm
action
game.
game. It's whatever, but it's definitely not a sports game. I would even buy Punch Out as a puzzle game before I would.
What about Super Dodgeball? Super Dodgeball is better.
Super
than...
Dodgeball is a very cool idea for a game that is a technical mess, so I have disqualified it for that.
Okay, well, that's another one we didn't pick. We
Play
that we
super
picked last
slow,
time. We
and there's
didn't
all
pick this
kinds of
time.
like sprite flickers.
There's a lot of sprite flicker.
That's
yeah.
a tough ask, but that's a really cool.
We didn't pick Adventures of Lolo 3.
Picked that. Right. Well, I picked Lolo instead
Yeah.
because of the
Right.
change.
We did not pick Little Nemo, the Dream Master.
I didn't capture any footage of that, but that's a really cool game.
We didn't pick.
What the fuck?
Hey,
Ooh, what?
wait a minute.
How about we?
Fuck you guys. Blades of Steel is way better. You guys are crazy.
Hey guys.
All right, that's it. That's all I got to
Thanks,
say.
Alex.
You want to?
You're welcome.
What's
I interrupt. I put down my. I was eating and I was listening to this, and I was like, "Fuck this! Dinner's got to wait." And I found my mic and I got on here just to tell you guys that you suck ass. All right, that's it. I'm done.
Underscore said, I can't believe I was more considerate than Alex.
Oh, God.
All right, well, I think maybe we're done here then.
All right, so what is going to be our 25th game to round? With Little Nemo, Final Fantasy, Balloon Fight, and Strider, we did not pick this time that were picked in the last draft.
What about one of the 2 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle games from the NES? Did you pick those last time?
Well, there were technically 3 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles games. We
No,
didn't pick any.
I don't remember. There's number 2, and then there's number 3, the Manhattan Project. But I
There
don't
must
think
be
there
a
was
number
first. I don't
1,
think there
but-
was. I don't.
It's weird they never made a
Just
1, but
doesn't
that's just how
exist.
games work.
I don't know.
was a pile of garbage.
Ninja Turtles 2, the arcade game, is a damn fine game. I would have no problem inserting that as our 20th, as our honorary 25th.
Double
pick.
Dragon
I don't
2
know
is
how
also a
everybody
really
else.
good NES game that we didn't pick last
Double
time.
Dragon 2 is also a very good NES beat 'em up. Wow, Mike, Kurt, what do you guys think?
I would also say
I
Ninja
think Double Dragon
Gaiden would
holds
be
up
a
better.
fine pick, but any of those are good.
What was your last one, Eric?
Ninja Gaiden.
Yeah, we did Ninja Gaiden.
Oh, nobody took that? Yeah, you should take that.
I picked
Yeah.
Ninja Gaiden 2 because I like it better. But
Oh, okay. All right.
okay, all right,
would
that'd
go
be
with
fine.
So Ninja Gaiden, are we saying is our 25?
That's a great game.
Yeah.
Okay,
There's a lot-
then I
a lot
don't
of
feel
good
bad for not picking it.
You fight Jackie Onassis at the end.
All right, so that's true. So let's just to run this whole thing down, just to revisit and talk about what was picked. Contra, Mega Man 2, Super Mario Bros. 3, Castlevania 3, Dracula's Curse, Bionic Commando, Metroid, River City Ransom, Mega Man 3, Ninja Gaiden 2, The Dark Sword of Chaos.
Thank you.
I'm glad that you got the subtitle into the show at some point.
Super Mario Bros. 2, Mario Madness? Is that a subtitle or just a slogan that's on the box? I don't know.
That's definitely not the subtitle.
Okay. The Legend of Zelda.
Should be, though.
Mike Tyson's Punch-Out.
We'll save Mario Madness will be the sequel to Mario Odyssey.
There you go. Life Force. Super Spike V-Ball. Star Tropics.
Such a good fucking game.
Bubble Bobble. The Adventures of Lolo. DuckTales. Woo. Super Mario Bros.
Yeah.
Batman.
Okay.
Super C.
Good.
Tengen Tetris. Zelda 2. Tecmo Super Bowl. And honorary number 25, Ninja Gaiden.
I went totally off the reservation with my last two picks, but I wanted to pick stuff that we didn't talk about last time because it's more fun.
So now the question becomes, if you could choose one of your friends' lists, which of your friends' lists?
I mean, I would pick Eric's list in a heartbeat. He's got Contra and Mega Man 2.
Yeah.
No, Mike has
Mega Man 3.
Yeah. And Lolo and Tecmo Bowl. What was your other one?
Ninja Gaiden 2.
Lolo, Bubble Bobble. Yeah, like I said, I kind of went off the reservation a little bit at the end. But those are both fun games, and especially if Kurt hasn't played Adventures of Lolo, and he likes puzzle games. Like
I do.
You should play Adventures of Lolo.
I do, and I have it.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Really?
Sorry, Mike, did you ask what I had?
Or not Adventure game, puzzle game.
I had Castlevania 3, Bionic Commando, Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, Life Force, and Batman, and Super C.
Oh, you got Bionic Commando? I ain't touching your list with a fucking 10-foot pole.
I was gonna say, I'd like your list, but then I'd have to get rid of Castlevania 3.
It's tough, just because Joe has Castlevania 3, I have to consider it, but I can't pick it. I probably have to go with Mike's, I think.
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning towards. I mean, Eric has my favorite game is Contra, but you also I don't know, man, Bubble Bobble and
Bubble Bobble's a great co-op game.
Adventures of Lolo.
I was supposed to get Super Spike V-Ball, but somebody else took it. It was supposed
you didn't.
It was supposed to be Super Spike V-Ball and Adventures of Lolo, but.
Kurt had Super Mario 3.
Yeah.
Kurt had Super Mario 3 and Super Mario Brothers.
Did nobody take Zelda? Did I miss that?
You missed that.
Actually, I'm going with Kurt.
Okay.
Kurt's got Zelda.
Yeah, Kurt's got Mario 3.
Mario 1 and 3.
Mario 3, Zelda, done. Kurt wins.
Yeah, that's a good list.
Yeah.
Spike V-Ball and...
Oh, who took Blades of Steel?
Nobody. It's not as good as
Oh, that's right. Fuck you guys.
Nobody wanted to take the second best hockey game on the NES.
You son of a bitch. Say that to my face.
Joe got the best Batman game.
Oh my god.
Good. We're doing good things here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
I think I would take. I think I would have to take.
You should look at the stream, Joe, and then go with your heart. Wait 20 seconds and then look at the stream and then go with your heart.
Okay, I was gonna say it takes Tecmo Super Bowl.
It takes good food. Holy shit! I've never played this. This looks amazing.
Yeah, I don't know. Mike has Mega Man 2. Eric has Contra. I think I would. I guess I'd have to go with Eric because he has Contra and Mega Man 3, even though I don't really give a shit about Bubble Bobble or Adventures of Lolo. But the rest of his list is, pretty solid. Ninja Gaiden 2.
That's good.
The Dark Sword
Mega
of Chaos.
Man 3. Dark Sword of Chaos. Contra.
It's weird to me that the one that has Contra in it isn't the one that you're like, yeah, that's the one.
Like I said, it's because I took some weird.
I mean, it's because he took some weird stuff that I don't really love. So.
Pretend that I had Super Spike V-Ball and Kurt's not a huge piece of shit.
Why don't I pretend that I have Contra and you're not a huge piece of shit?
That's obviously not true.
So, yeah, I don't know. That's.
Learned anything in the last 10 years?
I mean, it seems like we learned a couple things. We learned that Blades of Steel and Pro Wrestling aren't very good NES games, it seems like.
That's false.
Those are very good NES.
They finally stopped standing the
They're
test
good, they're
of time.
just not quite as good as other
And
stuff.
that Crystallis is maybe not as great as somebody previously thought it was.
Yeah.
I'll note that Eric got 3 picks before I took the one he's bitching about.
Yeah, that's a valid point.
Well, nobody was supposed to pick that game. I should not have shown you fuckers that.
You didn't show me that. I was well aware of Super Spike V-Ball.
Yeah, but you didn't know about Super. Like you knew about it, but you didn't know about it. You know?
Sure, keep telling yourself that, man.
All right, that's it. I think we're done.
Yeah, I think we're done. So there we go. So now we've got our Super NES Draft up. This is the redo of our NES Draft, and I think the Genesis one is going to be the next one that is turned into a video, and that's all thanks to the people who donated to our 2017 Extra Life campaign.
PlayStation 2 one is up.
And we did the PlayStation 2 draft, and that is up on the YouTube channel as well. So check those out if you want more of this. And God only knows why you would. And yeah, the Genesis Draft, which has a bunch of people who are not most of the people that were on this one, is going to be the next one.
That one has people whose opinions we actually care about. So
Right.
Like me.
It's Joe picking, me moderating, and everybody else is not any of the usual chuckleheads.
Yeah, no, not at all.
We're gonna say mental patients.
No.
Okay.
The inmates are running the asylum.
Accurate is correct.
Yeah, so that's it. Thanks everybody for tuning in. If you watch this live, or just or watching it on the YouTube channel afterwards, and yeah, we'll be back tomorrow night with a regular weekly stream
with Blades of Steel.
No, I think you mean Blades of Steel.
Yep.
Is that the one where you can play Gradius in between?
Yes.
Absolutely,
Yep.
it is.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
And the fights are more than just people bumping into each other. But I don't think Blades of Steel can have full bench clearers, which ice hockey can. So
You can't have a full team of fat guys in Blades of Steel.
That's
Therefore,
true.
Ice hockey's
Very
better.
true.
Anyway, that's it. We're done. Goodbye. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Whatever. Bye.